Wednesday.
All right, we're live. Here we are. It's myself, Nick McQuick. We've got our guests. They'll be popping in here in about a second. We got Sheila, Gunn, Reid, Kian, Simone, and Stephen Darnell with us today.
Dun dun dun.
Dun, dun, dun. We're gonna be talking controversial shit.
Oh yeah, controversial. Avoiding any sort of N-word or anything, but
yeah, I don't know.
we
'Cause
get-
Steven's the king of controversy. That's why.
oh yeah.
Yeah, he's the most controversial man on this podcast
Well,
so far yet.
we did we did a show on, I think it was Monday, and Steven was headlining. He was closing it out, and like for a left-winged snowflake guy, it's weird because he calls on like his comedy. Actually, he calls on the absurdity of a lot of like the left-leaning things that he supports, which is kind of weird. Why are we talking about him like he's not here?
Yeah, well, you can come on in, Steven. Yeah, welcome to the show, Steven.
Yeah.
Stephen Darnell, ladies and gentlemen. How come this screen isn't working, brother?
Oh, I think we have to turn that on.
Are you not plugged in? Anyway, technical.
But Steven, how are you like politically?
How am I don't know. Politically homeless, I guess. I don't. I don't align with anybody. You know, I'm a pragmatist. Every situation has a right answer. I just try to find the right answer. I don't try to have a default.
That's a really good solution. When somebody asks you what you are, use a word that's really big that they won't understand.
Yeah, I try to bullshit and intimidate my way out of conversations.
And does it work very often?
Well, I thought it did until Nick took a stroll through the comments section of my last appearance here and told me, listen,
I told you not to look at it.
I didn't look, but I just want to speak out to all the Danger Cats fans who didn't care for me the last time. I have two important things to say. Number one, same God that made you made me. We both love Danger Cats. You know, we're all friends here. Number two, as a left-wing snowflake, I got a special message. Suck my dick.
Yeah! That's what we love.
From the bottom of my heart.
Wow, that's not something you hear from a lot of
If
male
you
feminists.
smell,
Yeah, on
right?
behalf of, as a feminist, on behalf of all my sisters worldwide, I have a message for each and every one of you, Danger Cats fans. You think you're big time with your cock and your balls? Well, here's a message to you from the ladies. Suck our dicks.
Here you go, solidarity.
Yeah.
I'm with it. I can get behind some shit like that. I like that you're taking a bold stance like that, telling us to go fuck ourselves.
Yeah,
I
man.
enjoy that.
You know what this show needs? An Iron Sheik to your Hulk Hogan. I'm here to come on and say, all you hack fans, all you Danger Cats out there, you're nothing but cowards.
Oh no. Okay.
Just kidding.
Now he's
He's asking for it. Follow Steven on Instagram, not in life.
I'm just trying to set you guys up to hit me with a steel chair, but a steel chair of comedy,
Steel chair of comedy.
steel chair of friendship.
The steel
plugged
chair.
in.
We're all friends here.
Steve, how long have you been doing comedy? Because you came on like a phenomenon, man.
I came on pretty hot, and then I cooled off for a minute, and then I started to I plateaued there for a little bit. COVID was honestly the best thing that ever happened to me.
What?
I needed the break. I came on hot, but then I plateaued. I started to feel kind of burned out. I wasn't progressing, and then all of a sudden I was compelled to take a 3-month break.
Somebody
And I
put
think
baby in the corner, right?
Somebody put baby in the corner. And look at me today.
Yeah.
I'm on last call.
Well, you're running your own show too, right? You've got a debate show.
I got a debate show. It's right around the corner. February 13th, this Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday. For any of you in Edmonton who want to skip the Super Bowl, you come on down to the comic strip at 7 o'clock. We're hosting a debate on conspiracy theories.
And what are okay, so
Yeah, radical versus rational. We got the professor versus the kid.
What's a conspiracy theory you believe in?
It's the one without a sticker.
That's a good question. Let's see. One that I believe in. There's one that I've been throwing around that nobody agrees with me yet. I totally made it up myself. I'm admitting, but I think it might be true. You know the Westboro Baptist Church?
Never mind.
Like
Yeah, they hate the gays or something.
Yeah,
right?
they hate the gays. They both protested gay funerals and military funerals.
Really?
And everyone hated them. They're the most hated family in America. My theory was that they were doing that on purpose to try to bring unity to the United States. That
Really?
they didn't believe anything that they said. that they were trying to be as hated as possible to try and bring the far left and the far right together. Because they would hold signs that said, "Thank God for dead soldiers," right beside signs that said, "God hates fags." And so I think they were trying to unite those two sides, that they were like, it was a fake out on their part.
Okay,
Awesome.
so
That is me inventing it. There's no evidence for that. I'm inventing that theory, and it's exclusively based on that they were civil rights lawyers in the 70s.
Join us. Come on in. Grab a stool. There's mics right there. Joining us now. Is it Kian Simone? Kian, I'm saying that right. And Sheila Gunn Reid, both journalists with Rebel News, here with us today.
Speaking on your Westboro Baptist Church wanting to be the bad guys to unite everyone, the convoy. It was the weirdest thing because I saw people like left-leaning people, right-leaning people politically. Everyone was out there honking their horns, doing their thing. And it was it's like I've never been a fan of government at all. And it was good to see how many people, because people forget the government works for us.
They do.
And when they're doing a bad job, protest is what we're supposed to do. And I'd like you to point out any political party or any level of government that did this right, that didn't make mistakes.
Yeah, but that doesn't that almost
The
sound
Mayor
like a
Tabor.
defense, though?
Mayor
Tabor nailed it.
Dude, we had that shit locked up tight. We do things right,
That
brother.
guy's due for a promotion.
Yeah,
Well,
they're like, hey, let's get this alt-right comedian down at the bowling
We
alley.
have a billboard up in Tabor, don't we?
Yeah.
You
that
do?
was a
Yeah,
rebel billboard
somebody
up there.
just
Oh, yeah, I
randomly
saw
put up
that.
a rebel billboard
Yeah,
in Tabor. So
I
yeah,
saw-
Tabor does it right.
I think it was.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was your Instagram or your Twitter, but yeah, I saw it on there a little while
Yeah.
ago. It's pretty awesome. Oh,
Nice. Sit
Over
there.
here.
Great radio. Fuck
Oh.
yeah.
But no, the convoy. Where did you land on the convoy politically, being a neutral man like yourself?
I didn't say I was neutral. I said I was
Oh,
pragmatic. I'll jump around. I'll think what I think on any.
Okay.
Bandwagon
Yeah,
hoppers.
yeah,
Nice.
that's exactly what people who don't understand my nuance accuse me of.
Pull out your dictionary and follow along. Here he is worming his way out of this.
Yeah, no, well, I don't know. I agree with you. I think that those people had to stand up for what they thought. They had to be represented. I think that they were getting forgotten, as a voice, so it made a lot of sense for them to try and protest and say, hey, we're still here. I also think that they are definitely getting a bad time in the media and on social media. I think there's a lot of bias against them. But if you just want my actual opinion on them, I think that the mandates were largely justified at the time. I think that they were fair with two big asterisks. The one is I do think that it's probably about time to phase them out. And number two is I would have been fine with you need to have a vaccine or have a recent negative test. If you're willing to pay for a negative test, that works for me too.
But then you're putting a tax on people that are unable to get the vaccine, basically.
No,
what you're
totally.
doing,
You are.
Because sad personal story. My mother's husband died during the pandemic,
sorry to
completely
hear that.
unable to get the vaccine,
Yep.
had MS, stayed at home the longest time, and eventually just died. And his he was a trans man, but his passing, he hated everything that was going on. It was super critical of the government and said that we're mishandling this. This isn't how it should be. And he said, as one of the people that can't get the vaccine, the entire world can't stop to meet the pace of the slowest people in the herd, and it'll do more harm. And that's just something I get to echo now.
Yeah, I would agree that it really sucks. That was a tax that would get put on people who, for a variety of reasons, didn't want the vaccine. And this is not a very satisfying answer. I just think that life sucks sometimes.
It does.
I don't know that there was an easy way around that. I think no matter what you were doing, there was no option that was low cost. There was a bunch of high cost options, and we just had to try and choose the best one. And I don't think the government did a perfect job of it. I think they made some mistakes and they made some calls that were okay. I don't know. It was a tough situation.
I think they were throwing darts at bowling pins, not doing a perfect job. They weren't even playing the right sport.
You know what's funny about this is how typically people like to say, hey, if everyone on both sides of the issue is mad at you, that means you're doing something right. You must be really shooting straight. Everyone hates Kenny. Everyone is furious. No matter how you feel, you're probably very disappointed in Jason Kenney right now. And no one's like, oh, way to go, Kenny. Fair and balanced. He's got them all mad at him. He's just blowing it.
It's
apparently
you've actually written a book very critical of Rachel Notley.
Yeah,
and
actually.
And I've been following you on Twitter for a while. I've seen how critical you've been of Jason Kenney too.
Yeah.
Is that Are you catching heat from like your friends that you're not just sliding into a political mindset and following guidelines?
No, I think not from my friends. I think from political partisans for sure.
Yeah.
Because they think that I'm play on their team and I'm supposed to be loyal to their guy. But if their guy is not doing what he said he would, why is he entitled to my loyalty? I think at Rebel News, part of our job is to keep conservative politicians honest. They have all the forces pulling them to the left, right? Mainstream media, the CBC, the academic class, labor unions, they're all pulling them to the left. We're on the right shouting at them to remind them, like, hey, remember these promises you made? You guys were a bunch of conservatives. That, I think, is our job, to serve as that gut check to the right of these guys to remind them where they came from. And that's part of our work with Jason Kenney when we're critical of him. Like, sure, yeah, we'll cheer him on. Like, hey, thanks for dropping the vaccine passport by another name so that you can sleep at night.
Yeah.
But you also said you'd bring it back. Yeah. I remember. I'm old enough to remember when he's like, "What's a vaccine passport?" And then he learned pretty damn quick.
He said straight to my face.
Yeah.
Oh,
straight to your
what?
face.
That
Oh,
it was
really?
illegal. Like we met him in the summer at one of his breakfasts, and he literally said straight to the camera, "It's illegal. We won't be doing that."
Not just we won't be doing it, we'll be opposing it
Yeah.
if Justin Trudeau tries to bring it in.
Yeah.
And so that's when he's like, this is the restriction and exemptions program. It's totally not a vaccine passport. It does everything in practice that a vaccine passport does, but it's definitely not a vaccine passport.
No, it's a train ticket instead,
Yeah.
or we'll just change the name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it easier to like, be critical of him when there's not an election in the near future? Like right now, you can tear him apart, and it's not going to put Notley in power in the short-term future. But if there was like an election coming, like hypothetically, if somebody waved a magic wand and the election was tomorrow, would it be harder for you to talk about how disappointed you were with Kenney because you know that might help out Rachel Notley, who you'd probably like less?
I guess at the end of the day, what's the difference, right? Like if whether like Jason Kenney's lying to me, Rachel Notley's telling me what she's going to do. At least she's being honest. But at the end of the day, during this pandemic, all we had to do was look at this whatever Rachel Notley was asking for 2 weeks prior. Jason Kenney does it. So he's just like, there came a time during everything that he was just slow moving NDP.
Yeah.
Instead of conservative.
It's so weird to hear you say, like, at least she's honest. That's like the nicest thing you've ever said about her.
It's true, though.
It is.
She'll tell you straight what she's going to do to you.
Yep.
Jason Kenney, he told us something one way and then did something totally different. No vaccine
I think
passport.
it's the same like federally when Justin
Oh, for
Trudeau.
sure.
Yeah, we're gonna do
Oh.
vaccine. You won't be able to get on a train or a plane.
Yeah.
And then you got Aaron O'Toole over there, like, yeah, there's no carbon tax coming. It's like the same thing.
Yeah.
He's
And
like,
then-
no, it's not a tax, it's a levy.
Yeah.
Is it okay if I go into a little rant then?
Yes.
I'm all ears.
Okay, so Joe Rogan got canceled for using the N-words, which is terrible. Yeah, cancel him. You have the choice. People
What's
are
the
boycotting.
N-word?
It's a slur.
Bait him into one.
It's one that we will get kicked off of YouTube if I say.
Oh yeah, demonetized.
Yeah. But he said the N-word. People are like protesting. That's their right. They can do that. They don't like it. That's great. If you think he's a terrible person, take your money elsewhere. That's your right as a consumer. But my thing is that everyone's a hypocrite. And I know this because I'm a hypocrite too. And everyone's a hypocrite. People are outraged and they're like, I will never, ever support Joe Rogan. He said this. And they're card-carrying liberal members forgetting that Justin Trudeau was in blackface.
Yeah.
And they got over that real quick. So for me, seeing you stepping aside, saying something nice about somebody who you've written books about that you do not like, being like independent and not locked into political mindset is a very encouraging thing for me. I really appreciate that now there's more nuance to the individuals. We're not just like labeled as right wing or left wing or watchdogs or this or that. There is a nuance. But the problem that I see is so many people don't have that nuance. They don't apply that critical thinking to their own choices. They just are mad at something.
You know what, though? I think the great honkening might be the thing that changes all of that because, and you know, K2, I'll let you speak to this. When you go to these protests against the lockdown, it is the most bizarre cross-section of people you will ever meet in your life.
Agreed.
You've got NDPers who think crystals cure cancer, and you've got the organic food crowd, the natural health crowd, the blue-collar conservatives who are like, I'm not taking this shit because the government told me to.
Mm-hmm.
There's plenty of those. You know, you got your oil patch guys, your rig hands, your truckers for sure, farmers for sure. And then, yeah, exactly.
Fly
and
the flag, blue collar.
So you've got, you've got religious conservatives, you've got libertarians, libertines sometimes. And so this weird parade is marching, but there's not a politician who will do what Ralph Klein does and just jump out in front of it. But I think the great honkening is that sort of, I guess, come to Jesus moment where people are saying, look, the Conservatives don't own me on this. The PPC don't own me on this. I'm not a liberal because I look at Justin Trudeau and he did everything wrong, even though I'm a liberal on social issues. So I think this is sort of changing the way people have divided themselves from each other in society and what sort of columns they've put themselves in.
Well, it's the most unifying experience. Like, you have all nationalities there too, right? All these people come out of the wood, like out of their closets, like, oh yeah, I grew up in communism. Yeah. And it's like, this is what's happening right now, and you just actually get to talk to those people. It's
well, they were talking about how there was a swastika there, and I know that there was a bunch of Jews there.
You mean a Fed?
Yeah,
Fed. Find the Fed.
I think what a conspiracy theory would call it is a false flag. But it's like, if there's one flag moving around, the guy's got his face covered, glasses, completely unidentifiable. Yeah, but there was Jews, there was Muslims, there was gay pride flags. There was such a great and then people. It's upsetting to me to watch like traditional media and them go like, oh, they're misogynists, they're hate crimes, they're a bunch of like undereducated, and like it's so because
Brendan's only one man. He can't be all those people.
I am the most Jewish Nazi you'll ever meet in your life. Okay. That's why we have him.
Shalom.
Yeah.
But to me, it's a weird thing because everybody's trying to reduce it and put it in a box to make it a lesser thing. But there were people going and cleaning the streets. Sure. There were people like tidying up after themselves. As a Canadian, that fills me with pride. That's a great thing.
Yeah.
But though I think a lot of it is classism. Like a lot of this opposition to the great truckening, the great honkening is classism.
I like that, by the way, the great honkening.
It's the honkening. Some guy told me that in Edmonton. He had a big sign. He's like, "Welcome to the honkening." I'm like, tell me what the honkening is, good sir. But I think it is classism. You've got these people who think they're smarter than you, like our moral and intellectual superiors, the academics, the politicians, the people who have effed everything up from the very beginning. And just like Armageddon, these people have never learned the lesson of the movie Armageddon, where when the academics and the politicians F everything up, who do you call? The blue-collar guys, the rig hands.
The drillers.
The drillers, to fix the problems. And so there's all these people looking down their smug pajama class noses. What do I call them? I call them the avocado and toast class versus the coverall class of people. The people who can sit behind their computer in their pajamas and work all day. But there are other people who need to go to a job. Yep. And those people make the world go round. And those people have had enough. And those are always the people who solve our problems. When everybody else F's it up, those are the people who say, no, you know what? I don't live in a big city. I don't work in an office. I don't do the job I do because I need somebody standing over my shoulder telling me how to live my life. Yeah. And those are the people who have had enough. And I think the rebellion could only have come from rural Alberta, where people are sort of disconnected from the city and the people lurking over their shoulders and the scolds, and they don't care. They're connected with their neighbors, right? So they don't listen to the TV when the TV says, no, your neighbors, your grandma, your friends and family, those are disease vectors. They look around and say, the hell they are. So I think that's what's happening here.
I just like that we've kind of taken a step back on political correctness, and now I just call fat people like pre-existing morbidities.
Yeah.
Well, I think the best example of what Sheila was talking about there, like down in Coutts, I'm sure we'll get into Coutts later.
Oh, yeah.
So the RCMP, they would call the tow trucks to come get these guys out of here, and the tow trucks are like, no. So you see how like they're realizing that, oh, these are my brothers helping us. They called tow trucks in Montana too. And Montana was like, no, we're not doing that.
Get fucked.
Also, I don't know about Montana, but I know in Coutts the vaccination rate is about 40%. So that is clearly a much more popular movement in Coutts than it is in downtown
also,
Edmonton.
all the people in Coutts, they're old and retired there because they want to go into. None of those guys are from Coutts. None of them. Locals were making them breakfast. Yeah, and they're all old ladies, right? So none of those guys are from Coutts.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? Sorry. Speaking of vaccination rates, I just did a story about.
And where can people find your work?
Oh, they can find it at
right into the camera.
rebelnews.com, and if you want to follow K2's work from the border, it's convoyreports.com. But I just did a story about what it would look like if you took government force out of vaccination.
Yeah.
So there's a town that never locked down. It's Little Lacrete, Alberta. Population 3,500 at the end of the road.
Beautiful.
14-hour round trip to Edmonton. I think that's what saved them. The fact
Yeah.
that and the entire town is pretty well Mennonite. So they're by their faith, they rely on each other.
Yeah.
But the vaccination rate there is only 35%. Why? Because despite what Edmonton said for them to do, and despite what the public health necromancers told them to do, they never locked down. They never made anyone wear a mask. There was no such thing as a vaccine passport. Nobody carded you at the swimming pool before you could go in. And the vaccine uptake there, if you were given a choice, like a true choice, because it didn't affect your day-to-day comings and goings, was only 35%. So when you see like approaching 90% vaccination rate, that's a hell of a lot of government coercion. I don't cheer that number on. I look at it and say, those are a lot of people who were under the boot of the state and made a decision that they will regret probably forever.
Well, and even then, a lot of people were led there by fear and
Oh, for
lies.
sure.
Like,
Yeah.
I got my vaccine. I was almost front of the line getting it because they said, if you get a vaccine, you can't catch the virus. You can't transmit the virus. I'm like, sweet, I'll get to be free. I can do whatever I want. And
Don't
then-
you fucking lie on this stream. Don't you fucking lie. The moment Jason Kenney said $100 for you, my boy,
Yeah.
the fucking Jew
Yeah.
came out
Yeah.
of you. Give
I
me
have to get it
two.
in. Get it in.
I'll take two.
Yeah. Well, and now they're like, I need a booster, but they're not
We're
paying
in
for
trouble,
that.
K2.
You're on a show with comedians now where it's
I
no
know.
holds barred.
Yeah.
Don't worry. The views reflected on this podcast do not represent Rebel News. They're strictly.
We stand with Whoopi.
Day to day, the views expressed on this show might not even reflect the views of the people expressing them.
Yeah.
Yeah, half the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Change
half
your
the
mind.
Because
time.
I was like, I said, yeah, blockade the border. And then somebody's like, that's a crime. And I'm like, I probably shouldn't say that on air then. I'm like, oops.
I'm a fan of it, though.
I like,
I like it.
Of
Do you know what? I'm
blockade.
happy. You know, we don't make the rules. We're just forced to play by them. The left made these rules. You can blockade all the shit you want as long as your politics are right. Whoopi Goldberg is a great example of this. You know what? If Joe Rogan said the stuff she did, canceled. Pull
That's-
that episode down. She gets 2 weeks off on her ass with pay. That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah.
We've got Extinction Rebellion blocking downtown Edmonton all the time. We just cross our hands and just say, "Ugh, I'm in a traffic snarl." And you complain about it for the
What
day.
has Extinction Rebellion ever done that compares with blocking the Coutts border crossing?
You want to know why? Because Extinction Rebellion is oversoyed, under-proteined, and they don't have a good work ethic. So they're out
So
there.
the reason why
cold
what
and
you
muddy.
just said is not true is because Extinction Rebellion has a bad diet. You can't say, hey, Extinction Rebellion gets away with blocking nothing ever. They're just annoying people downtown. So we
They
should be
did
able
block
to do
the
that.
shit out of downtown.
What have they done that like compares to a week-long blockade
to
of
be
the border?
fair, what she said was very hilarious.
I'm not saying it wasn't. it was a pretty good
They shut down
thing.
the London Tube for an
Whoa.
entire day.
I can't. I'm trying to keep it to Alberta.
They are terrible. They shut down cities all the time. It's awful. I've seen them in action firsthand in Bonn, Germany. I've seen them in Poland, in Katowice, Poland. They're monstrous and crazy, highly irrational, anti-human.
I don't disagree with any of that. I'm not a fan
I'm
of Extinction.
I'm just saying.
Getting worried there.
As the right, we are often bringing a knife to a gunfight, and the problem is the left made the rules, but they're about to find out that we're better at fighting on the same battleground as they are.
I think there's a lot to that. Like during Idle No More, there was a lot of leftist people said the point of protest is to disrupt and is to upset you and is to like get in the way of the gears of society. And then all of a sudden, right wing people are doing it and they have a problem with it. However, Idle No More shut down a train for was it a day? I think it was
Oh gosh,
like,
no.
less
No,
than a show.
are you
Not when they
thinking of
shut it
like
down. They
the
had
Wet'suwet'en?
Last year?
That
I-
was like a 3-month thing.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
Wet'suwet'en was longer. I
Yeah.
mean, they Idle No More in like 2012. They had no arrests, but one guy got fined quite a bit. But I do know like the
Chaining
all-time
themselves
arrest,
to pipelines all over the
the
place.
all-time
Line
arrest record for like the most people that the RCMP have ever arrested was I think it was Ferry Island in or Ferry Creek.
Ferry
in-
Creek.
Yeah, Ferry Creek.
I'm not
That
making that
they-
joke, man. Quit baiting me into that joke. I'm not doing it.
Let's see you resist the temptation. But like I think there's something to what you're saying. But I'll be honest. I think you're like overstating the point. Like thousands of environmentalists got arrested in that case. Thousands of them got arrested. Zero, and they weren't shutting down nearly as much activity as the Coutts border crossing is. And they've been there for like, how long have they been there now? Or what is it? 2 weeks? 13 days?
13 days
Going
total
on
now.
2 weeks.
Yeah. On the flip side, though, the left has been doing this for a very long time. There's the Clayoquot Sound War of the Woods. They went, and this is Sephora Berman, so she ended up being hired by the NDP, Rachel Notley's NDP. She was basically an economic environmentalist terrorist. And they went out into the woods. They chained themselves to what they alleged to be an old growth forest, was not. And they went there and they would hammer spikes into the trees because that would so that can injure the lumberjack when the chainsaw bucks back.
Yeah, that'll kill him, man.
If anybody's ever hit a knot, let alone something in the tree, it'll buck back and it could kill the guy. But it also damages the tree. The tree
that they're protecting.
The sawmill too. The sawmill operator. It's flying shrapnel around the sawmill. She did that. Now, right now, those are the same people. But crying about the border blockades.
I want to say the optics of driving a metal spike into a tree to save it are the same optics of
use porcelain.
Oh, well then it's like putting Jesus on a cross with porcelain spikes to make something out of him.
Yeah.
You're not on the good side of history.
I've got a real hard time listening to the left cry at me about a blocked border. They've been doing this for decades. The one time we return the favor and the world is ending.
Well, I think they're crying because the RCMP didn't enforce right away, right?
Yeah.
But there was like a lot more to that than what meets the eye, right? You got guys in there that were getting phone calls on end from farmers all around Alberta. They're like, we're ready to go. And like not in a violent way, just like, we'll do it up here too. We'll do it over here. We're coming from Saskatchewan. We're coming from BC. You know, like if they enforce that, they were asking for something that they weren't ready to handle.
Well,
right?
And these guys are doing something different too. They're part of the long history of civil disobedience coming from rural Alberta. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the wheat board protests. So my friend Rick Strankman, Jim Ness.
A friend of mine's dad actually went to jail because of that.
Jim Ness. I'm friends with his son. I'm friends with Rick. And they went to jail for the crime of selling a bushel of wheat to a 4-H club in Montana. Because at the time, and it seems so crazy, but this is very recent history. They went to jail, I think, in 2003. But they started their ordeal in the late 90s because you needed an export license to sell your grain in Western Canada across the border. If not, you had to sell your grain to the wheat board, the central wheat board, the Soviet-style wheat board, and they would just sell your grain for you, and then you couldn't do what you wanted with the fruits of your labor. However, farmers in Eastern Canada, they could just sell to whomever they wanted across the border. They were not subject to the same rules we were. There were a series of farmers across the prairies who said, this is horrible, and the only way this is going to change is if we make a spectacle of it. So they knew that they were going to jail if they did this. They did it. The Liberal government handcuffed them, hauled them away in front of their screaming, crying children. But ultimately, the law was changed. The wheat board is dead, and they were pardoned by Stephen Harper for their actions.
So how long were they in jail?
I think Rick spent about 2 weeks in jail, I think. I think maybe Jim Ness spent 21 days. I'm going to get a phone call from his kid.
And this is a bundle of wheat, not weed, right?
Yeah, a bushel of wheat. Yeah. A bushel of wheat. And for them, they knew that they had to take this moral stand to change the law. And I think that's where the guys at Coutts are right now. They said to you the only way they're leaving is in the back of a cop car. So it's not about trying to skirt the law. They're inviting enforcement so that they can change it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The government has made them scream their screams and dream their nightmares for 2 years now.
Well,
and they want to hit them right in the pockets. They want to push it to a level, like, it's beyond a peaceful protest where it doesn't get violent, but it's in a language that they can understand, which is by money.
Yeah.
It's what is it, like $250 million a day?
Whoa!
That they lost?
Jeez.
Don't quote me on that, but that's what I was hearing.
Yeah, and at the Windsor crossing in Michigan, I think it's a quarter of all economic trade
What?
Cross-border
That's
trade
crazy.
between Canada and the United States goes through that one crossing every single day.
And you can tell that they're listening, right? That
Oh,
that
Biden's scared shitless.
restriction exemption program was end of March.
Yeah.
And then it was
Was
like,
Biden
okay, end of
awake enough?
February. And then it's like, okay, it's tonight.
Yeah.
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 Please leave.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's-
that's what it was. It was like, oh, it's the end of March. So 60 days or whatever when he
Jeez.
was first talking. And then it was like, oh, no, sorry, end of February. And then nobody budged. So he's like, oh, it's the middle of February. And then he's like, no, it's today. Oops.
Well, they
so-
started playing with them, right? Like they opened it up in good faith that there was going to be some negotiations and some like some progress, right? And then they just started messing around. Like every hour, they just go block it for a bit, and just be like, yeah, we're still here, and then unblock it. Like it was just.
It's for me, like it's weird because I've had a lot of social pressure put on me because I'm like, I support, even if I didn't support the message that they're going out, I fully support anyone's right to protest. And yeah, it's inconvenient for other people, but it makes me read and figure out what the hell's going on, which is good. But when I say like, yeah, I support a protest or I support somebody's right to protest, and people are like, oh, you don't understand your sacrifice, and I'm like, no, they could protest. They're allowed to.
Yeah.
Like it's such a strange, because if like I supported Black Lives Matter protest, okay? That was, and like as long as it's not violent, and I
Yeah.
support this as long as it's not violent. Anyone should be able to protest whether or not you disagree or agree with their politics. But why has this become an issue now where people are like, I'll never talk to you or I'll disown you
Yeah.
because you're on that side? Are we just getting more divisive in politics now?
Yeah,
or like,
yeah, of course we are. And we have got politicians pitting people against each other. I'm old enough to remember when someone's medical choices about what they did and didn't do and what medical procedures they had, you never asked about it. You didn't.
Yeah.
You would never ask about it. Now it's like a sign of your politics. You know,
Well-
how quickly you were to line up for your vaccine.
We
It's
were
a sign of how
Yeah.
loyal you are to the government. And now we've got the control, the people who can be controlled, and then we've got the ungovernables. And I think it takes a lot to get, I know a little something about rural Alberta and truckers, and it takes a lot to get people to the point, those guys, to the point where they are actively engaging in civil disobedience, because by and large their politics are, leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. But you didn't leave them alone for 2 years. So now they're not leaving you alone. And they're really good at it because they've
back to
got that
that-
expensive equipment.
That divisive comment you made, like Trudeau's most problematic statement was when he said that these people, as an unvaccinated, are putting our children in harm's way. That was just a paraphrase, but
Yeah.
like what?
Yeah.
You're
like
gonna, you're making people you're gonna make people go crazy,
yeah.
thinking that we're gonna.
Well, and to call them,
Misogynist.
Racist,
Misog-
misogynist,
I thought his worst
Islamophobic.
statement
Which-
was unacceptable
Yeah,
views.
he's
Yeah,
got,
I
he's
don't like
got
the
a
idea
vaccine.
that he's got
terrible.
a list of thoughts that are accepted and thoughts that are
Yeah.
not accepted.
yeah, thanks,
you're
Mr.
not-
Blackface. I'm not going to take advice about who's a racist and who isn't from thrice blackface that he can remember.
Did you
Yeah.
notice that he didn't even do the blackface right? Like he was going as Aladdin,
I don't
and
know
he
how you
looked
do it
more
right.
like he was going to a costume party dressed as Aladdin, and he looked more like Kazam. He overshot the ethnicity by like 7 skin tones.
I don't know.
This was one job a drama teacher was qualified for,
Yeah,
Yep.
and
Yeah.
he screwed
Could've
up
done
his
it.
stage makeup.
yeah. But
So that was disappointing.
But have you guys heard about the attack in Winnipeg? The car
Yes.
attack.
Yeah.
Okay, so you
Nope.
are drawing a blank.
Nope.
You probably get too much CBC in your
Oh,
life.
I don't read
It was
any
on
news.
the CBC.
I don't read any news
Sheila,
except one day a
it
month.
was on the CBC.
Okay, I'm teasing. But I'm saying that if this had happened and it was a right-wing guy attacking BLM, we'd all be in jail for dangerous thoughts right now. There would be a new law passed and we would just off being re-educated. This guy drove his car. He was an anti-racism activist. That's what his...
Oh, what type of car did he drive?
It was a Jeep Patriot. It's not even
Oh,
like a...
what?
The irony
Not
of that
even-
is so
Not
fucking
Not
funny,
even...
man.
He didn't even, like,
What?
spring
It's-
for a Cherokee. Okay, it was a
not
Patriot.
even an SUV. That's a car.
It's barely a
It's
Jeep.
body on frame
Yeah,
construction.
but the fact that
He
it's
wanted-
called a Jeep Patriot is kind of funny.
You
Yeah.
gotta
Can we
watch your
admit
fuel
that?
consumption as
Can
you're
we
running
laugh
over the
about
right
this?
way.
Yes, a little.
There's some humor there.
He describes himself as an anti-racism activist. He's like Antifa, far left, organizing May Day parades. So you know where his politics lie.
Know what we
Oh.
call those, Sheila, on this show? pussies.
Bingo.
Mm-hmm.
Bingo.
He was convicted.
Guys who I could take in an arm wrestle.
Kind of disrespectful to a real pussy though, because those things can take a pound.
Oh, here we go.
So anyway, this guy drives his Jeep Patriot into a crowd of convoy protesters.
Injured 3 people, hospitalized 1.
Exactly.
Well,
Injured
I mean,
3.
yeah, it's a Patriot. If it was a Cherokee, it would have got the job done.
He hospitalized 1, but he's a lifelong anti-racism activist. So this is someone who has been radicalized, weaponized by Justin Trudeau. When you are a do-nothing kind of guy, fighting racists on the internet all day for a living, that makes you feel good about yourself because you could be out shoveling an old lady's walk, but you are fighting make-believe racists on the internet. Your prime minister has told you there are literal Nazis in front of your legislature. And you're a lifelong anti-racism activist who's never actually done anything of quality in his life. What are you going to do? You're going to fire up the Jeep and mow down a few. Because why? Because you're oversoyed and you can't punch them.
I
and
like
so
the way you
whole,
made that rhyme.
The whole
What are
like,
you going to do? Gonna fire up the Jeep. Gonna mow down a few. Oh.
I didn't even think about that.
Spitting bars.
I didn't think about that.
Is Rebel News gonna pop up a rap album here? I'll
They're
take
not
it.
from me.
This is how we're moving into the non-white community. So we got your music here.
This is how gentrification starts.
Yeah.
I'll get
My
him in touch
name
with
is
Matt
Rebel,
Bredner.
and we're here to say
And
that doing
I'm the
blackface
least
is
cool
not
of all the
okay.
rebels.
Yeah.
I am. Because
Bars.
Doing blackface is not okay.
Okay, so you heard it here first. Rebel News says, get off the internet, stop talking politics, go shovel your neighbor's walk.
yes,
But
do something productive.
Gonna rewind first of all, I'm confident that guy also hated Justin Trudeau. Justin Trudeau is the most aggressively centrist politician
I
we've
don't
had
think he's
in a long time.
aggressively centrist
The
at
left,
I don't
all.
think he's
if
aggressive
you
in
guys
anything.
don't think that the left despises Trudeau, then you don't hang out with enough genuine leftist people. The left despises Trudeau.
I think when Trudeau wakes up in the morning, he has to take a Viagra for his spine to support his empty head as he walks out to figure out what bland, meaningless words he's got to shovel into his mouth, open up, and spit out into a camera while he moves his eyebrows around.
Yeah. Drink box water
yeah,
bottle.
but anyway,
I'm really regretting voting for him.
well, you should have seen the other guys.
Oh shit.
Okay, so I actually have a question for everybody. Okay, so what is, as you said, and actually I think that you're definitely onto something, that how people are viewing this protest doesn't line up with how they viewed past protests. So what does this, well, I guess my first part of the question is, does this make you rethink how you viewed past protests? Like, do you find yourself any more sympathetic to protests that you were like, well, they shouldn't be breaking the law in the past? And like, what is the line when it's okay to break a law? Because like, it's one thing, the honk fest or honktivism or whatever, like that's clearly within the law. Even if you don't like them, they get to go do it. The honkacost.
Holy
but
shit.
but the Coutts thing, they are breaking the law. So what makes it? Where's the line when it's okay to break the law?
I don't agree with breaking the law at all, but you can definitely side with them in a way where if they're having to go to this extreme, put food on the table for their families, and mind you, they're the ones putting food on our tables as well, and now they can't even do that.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a difference between, so in Ottawa now they're creating laws. You can't even honk there. They're creating laws to stop these protests. And then you got in the States last year where they're just burning down buildings, and it's like, oh yeah, that's okay. That's okay. You know, like there's
When
an
you feel their anger.
yeah, like it's, and or they're destroying cop cars. You know, like you're sure they are breaking the law and they're doing a major disruption in the economy.
Yeah.
But they are the economy. So maybe you should listen to them, right?
Like to me, here's how I see it. This is for protests. Like, you should be able to come up with a criteria where even if you don't know what the protest is for, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, you should have something where you could throw up and say, this is okay, that's not okay, that's when you should get arrested, this is where you should get supported, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I totally agree with you that there's a lot of people who are like, oh yeah, by all means, break the law in the name of the environment or indigenous rights or whatever. And now that it's a cause that they don't agree with, they're suddenly against it. But I be honest, I find that goes both ways. Like, I love the My Body, My Choice signs because I think that is perfectly applicable here. I think that applies very, very well in this situation.
Yeah.
I think that's a great argument. I am curious how many of those people were staunchly anti-abortion right until this came along. I feel you do kind of have to pick a lane on some of these issues, and it's not just the left that I see jumping back and forth. I'm seeing that jumping back and forth all over the place.
I think that's more of like an FU when when conservatives say "my body, my choice."
Yeah.
You know, most of them are pro-life,
Pro-life,
right?
yeah.
So it is more, and I can't speak for all of them, of course, but it is like an FU, right?
Yeah.
What about this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say that. Like, I wouldn't say it's fair to say, "Oh, where were you when it was all about abortion?"
Yeah.
It's more of just like a political statement rather than a, "Oh, now I agree."
Well, and I think more to your point from the very beginning is this is pretty nuanced. Like, I'm a pro-lifer. But I would say with regard to vaccines, yeah, my body, my choice, because I have a different distinction. It's more nuanced about where my body ends and somebody else's body begins. So I don't have a problem reconciling that in my mind. Mm-hmm. But I think with regard to the protests here, they're not protesting anything that would be abnormal for them to ask for and have in the before times.
Yeah.
You know, like they're asking to not have to be subject to a medical procedure they don't want to cross the border. Well, in 2019, that was perfectly normal. That's what this is about. It's about being able to visit your grandmother in the hospital. This isn't about, well, you don't like this pipeline going through this Indigenous land that you don't even live near, and the Indigenous band wants it, and you're some outside interloper from Vancouver. That's not what this is about. This is about our civil liberties. It's far different from opposing this one project because you listen to too much Greta Thunberg. That's what I think.
It's the thing you said there that really resonates with me is you talked about nuance, and I think especially with Mr. Trudeau saying all unvaccinated or misogynist, racist or whatever, it's such a broad brush. Anytime you paint with a broad brush, you miss all the fine details. And when you do paint with a broad brush, it moves people politically.
Yeah.
Because they don't like being called names by somebody.
Yeah.
So,
well, you know, you go to these protests all the time, and it's severely normal people. I think one of our best videos of the convoy coverage when it converged on Ottawa, it was the one that was featured on Tucker Carlson, where
our dog, ho, 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 ho.
Or Link, oh, don't, his foppish good looks. But our reporter Lincoln Jay went to Ottawa and he found the handful of counter protesters that were there, and the fact that there were a handful of counter protesters in 100,000 truckers and their supporters should speak to the fact that even the counter protesters don't buy their own garbage when it comes to the truckers, because you don't go to a protest.
They're a small fringe minority.
They're the small fringe minority, but you also know that they're not going to hurt you. They are not violent the way the mainstream media says, and even they knew it, because you wouldn't again, if you don't have enough protein in your diet and you're going to go fight a bunch of burly truckers, you wouldn't go. But this one guy standing there holding a sign, guy or girl, I couldn't tell, the mask outside.
Hey, it's wrong to gender them.
I'm
This
just- I'm
They,
just
them.
this-
Okay,
this
they,
human-
them.
Human being with terror in their eyes, holding a sign that said "F your white supremacist agenda" or something like that.
I agree with that. Fuck a white supremacist agenda.
Yeah,
That's a terrible agenda.
that's something I can get behind.
You're gonna get rid of all the donaires. Fuck that. Okay,
But
we can't get rid of
then
that.
Lincoln pans across, and there's a Sikh trucker saying, "I'm not a white." Like,
Yeah.
he's like, "I'm not a white. I'm not a white supremacist. I don't have a white supremacist agenda." And it was, as Tucker Carlson said, like the most embarrassing clip of TV that we've seen in a long time, because this person is standing there holding a sign saying, "This whole crowd is white supremacists," standing next to a Sikh trucker.
Yeah.
But that's what you get when you have people who've never actually met a trucker or anything like that. Like, if you, the trucking industry in Western Canada, by and large.
I've been a
It's-
heavy-duty mechanic for more than a decade. I
Thank
got my
you.
Class 1, worked on the ice road, worked all over the globe.
Sikhs, Indigenous. If you need gravel, your
Oh, yeah.
trucker's a Sikh.
Exactly.
Like, that's how it is.
It's yeah,
And-
astonishingly, there's not a lot of white truckers.
That's just how it, unless it's like heavy haul in the oil patch,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
half
some
of
oil
them are
field stuff.
Indigenous.
Yeah.
So these are people who just have it's the bigotry of low expectations. They don't realize how diverse, to use their language, the trucking industry is. They just think these are a bunch of uneducated white rubes, and not a bunch of minority entrepreneurs, which is what the industry really is.
Yeah.
The humorous part of it, though, is like, you know, if we're looking at this like an occupation, call it that, if you will, fucking. No, I'm not talking about I'm talking about Ottawa, like
Yeah,
being
we gotta
Occupy
rename
Ottawa.
it Trucksylvania.
I just
Yeah.
like it's like they're all minorities, and you're like, and they're occupying.
Yeah,
I'm like,
these
whoa,
guys, but
he's
the
swinging too far.
Truckistan.
He's
Yeah.
really right.
The funniest part about it to me is like when you take like Chaz or like the Capitol Hill autonomous zone and
Yeah.
compare the two, is how coordinated and it functions at such a better level than
Oh,
those
yeah.
assholes out in Portland were doing. You
Yeah,
know,
bouncy
it's humorous.
castles,
Yeah, it's
street
actually like
parties.
Soup
a
kitchens.
party. There's nobody like
No
comparing.
rapes and murders? Is
Yeah,
that what you're
yeah,
getting
yeah,
at?
pretty much. There's nobody been killed. Everybody's being fed. The homeless are getting gloves handed to them
Yeah.
off of people. Like that, there is a lot of good coming out of this.
Yeah.
Now maybe the noise pollution is upsetting a lot of people, but my fucking rebuttal back to that would be these are majority of those people have probably told somebody, pull up your mask. You're going down the wrong way in the alley.
Oh, the
So
worst.
that's 2 years of bullshit coming back, and you
Yeah.
got to take it in 2 weeks' time of noise pollution.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'm A-okay
The
with
one,
that.
the one that I've heard is people
Yeah.
tell me the pollution of the diesel fumes, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's way dirtier than gas," and I'm like, "It's not."
No.
I have a little piece of paper from the government that makes me an expert in very few things, but big trucks is one of them. And I know a diesel engine idling is way more efficient and puts out way less stuff, especially with after treatment systems on it.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, they're ruining the environment." And I'm like, "No, you're mining Bitcoin. You're ruining the fucking environment." Shut up. Your mom's almost done cooking dinner. Go upstairs. Get off the internet.
Right, yeah, your craft dinner's at the top of the stairs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shit, dude.
No, there's amazing how many people speak with expertise on subjects they have no absolutely right talking about, and with such certainty too.
Is that not like the foundation of being a comedian?
Oh yeah,
Is
Being
that
salty?
You be self-aware.
oh yeah. Like I'm self-aware. Like I'll go on a huge rant about something, and then at the end go, "But I know nothing about it, and these are assumptions," and then that makes it funny.
Yeah, but I'll be honest. I still sense that this is kind of exactly what you were talking about, which that part I totally bought. I think that a lot of people who would support this exact behavior if it was in the name of something they'd agree with suddenly have a massive problem with it. I think the criticism of this is full of classicism. The number of people who are just circling signs that have spelling mistakes, like congratulations, you
great.
went to university, that you should be thankful for that, not looking down on people who didn't.
Yeah.
I think that stuff is ridiculous, but just to pick on you a little bit, I see that going both ways. I'm a vegetarian. I'm a fantastic athlete. I will challenge you to an Indian leg wrestle anytime you want. We can sprint up and down these stairs if you want anytime.
Indigenous leg wrestle.
Yes. Sir, I don't
You
participate in
fucking woke
racist
bastard.
game.
Yeah, I think like this is
You wouldn't be the first male feminist to fight her.
Yeah. I still regret not punching that guy right in the face.
Oh, that was so funny.
You know what though? It would have been a much different story if I had just cold cocked that little creep, because then it would have been like Rebel News journalist attacks peaceful protester
For
at
the viewers,
the
I
legislature.
don't know if they know, you were covering a protest and a male feminist punched you in the face.
Nothing else says equality quite like bare knuckle boxing a lady you outweigh by 85 pounds.
You know, he's smaller than me, and I'm not a big lady. Like, yeah, I had like 4 inches on that guy. Again, I regret not just cranking him one. But yeah, it wasn't even just a feminine or like he was a male feminist and I was a female. It was at the Women's March at the legislature, and then the feminists skirted him away from me and told me that I was asking for it.
Oh, were you dressed for it? You were asking. It was
My
you was-
politics
wearing
were my
a-
skirt was too short.
Yeah,
That's
your
what
skirt
it
Were they
was.
screaming,
She was
calm down, too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, "You calm down." I'm like, "Calm down."
I just got punched in the
Yeah, I was
face.
like,
Why
"Don't
should I calm
That's
down?
what I said. I was like, "Don't effing tell me to calm down." And they're just like, they were like, as he was leaving, they were like, "Are you okay?" Like, it was really traumatic
Must
for
have
him
been
to
very
punch my
upsetting
camera
for
into my
you.
face.
I think the most important part here is didn't we do like a whole like manhunt for him, and
Yeah,
then
we did
his
a manhunt.
family ratted him out.
Yeah, we did a manhunt for him.
Oh.
We put a bounty up, and
Yeah.
I don't like to use the word bounty. It was a reward, and and I think within 45 minutes, 4 or 5 members of his own family had reached out to us. They were like, "It's $1,000. Can I get the $1,000?" It's Dion Buse, DionBuse.com, by the way. It'll always
you bought
point.
the domain?
Oh yeah, that's one of our favorite things. We bought his name. We
That was
also
Ezra for sure, right?
100%.
I'm buying his name.
Do you know what though? His addiction to URLs is still cheaper than smoking. So
The chat says you could have taken him in a fight.
oh for sure. You can tell where the camera angle is that he's like down here and I'm up here. And again, I'm not a big woman. I'm like 115 pounds soaking wet, but that guy.
Which she was after that Tucker Carlson thought.
Oh,
Those foppish good looks
I did
caused
run
oil spills all over the prairies.
I did run around the house screaming the other day when Ezra was on Tucker. I was like, everybody shut up.
Oh man.
quick on his feet. You're quick today, doggy.
You gotta be when you're the sometimes leftist who hangs out in the danger zone.
Yeah.
I'm glad I brought my boss here.
You're about as close to left as we can get through the door.
Yeah.
Dude. Holy shit. So I wanted to talk to you, Kian, here about, like, you were boots on the ground down there at the Coutts border, right? Did you know, like, was there any, what would you take away that was probably negative, and what was the most positive that you witnessed down there?
Well, I think I'll just start about how I got there. On last Sunday, I guess Ezra just putting up in our internal chat saying, maybe we should go check this out for a few hours.
Yeah.
And I share a car with my fiance, right? So I'm like, I can go in the morning. I'm not leaving here Sunday. And then I was like, well, screw it. We'll just get a hotel in Lethbridge. We'll head down there. And then in the morning, in a few hours, I was like, if they're blocking the border, they're getting scooped right away. Is in my head, right? So 6 days later, I'm there in the same underwear, same socks.
I know.
I smelled like dog water, man. It was nasty.
They told me they put their socks in the mini fridge where they were staying.
We didn't. You're in Coutts, Alberta, right? There's no hotels.
No
there's a
laundromat.
motel there, and it's full of truckers. And so we're staying in this well, at the time, random lady's basement, and we're putting our socks in the fridge because we're sleeping in the same bed, and we don't want to smell each other. So we're just putting all of our clothes in the fridge.
You know, you just shower with your clothes on. Takes care of it all. Clean your clothes and shower.
I know it's like minus 30 too.
Yeah. So the first few days, it was minus 30 plus like the 100-kilometer winds.
So you're heating your socks up in a fridge.
You're talking like positive, negative experience. You know, as a journalist, it was amazing. As like a human being, terrible. But you know, being there, and again, it's being Rebel News. We're walking in there, and the truckers are like, they see the camera, and they see the mic, and then they see the mic flash, and they're like, oh yeah, come on in. Like, we got a coffee ready for you, right? So we're going in there, and we're just talking to all of them, and you know, we're just scoping the situation out, and all of these guys, like, they're saying how one of them had 8 kids at home, like, waiting for dad to come home, and he's already been there for a few days, and so now 2 weeks now, and this guy hasn't been home.
I might
for
know
his
that
kid,
guy.
right? But they all have like 5 kids, 6
Yeah.
kids. Like it's insane. So it's a very humbling experience. Like that entire time, just talking to these guys, and then looking on CBC, who was like there for like 10 minutes, be like, oh yeah, these
Embedded with the RCMP,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, they're rolling with the SWAT team that set up a checkpoint around that stopped these peaceful protesters from getting food, water, and most importantly, medicine.
Oh.
Medicine.
Yeah, that's
There's
important.
guys there with heart conditions that the RCMP wasn't letting medicine over. They had to have negotiations with the RCMP, to get medicine in, like treating them like they're just terrorists.
How do you, another thing that I've heard thrown out is, the RCMP, the cops in general, they love these guys. The cops totally agree with them and are helping them. How did you find there was a lot of animosity between the cops and these guys, a lot of friendship? What was that relationship like?
Cops would walk in, the first time they walked in and they smiled, and I will never forget this. One of the cops was like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, just smiled, right, and just laughed at it. He's like,
Oh, those Duke boys
like,
are
what
at it again.
What are you doing? Right? And I guess it's a longer story, and I can put it short, but when they put that checkpoint up, I guess that's when the tension really started. And it was actually, it was really hard on those cops, and I know that for a fact from off the record, like speaking to them. It was hard for them to hear from higher ups, like, So there's the Coutts, Alberta. It's an older population, right?
Yeah.
I was speaking with a 80-year-old lady whose caretaker could not come in, and she said 2 of her friends haven't got out of bed since the checkpoint got up and haven't got their pills. So
Damn.
yeah, so because their nurses can't come in, right? So you think like how hard it is on those cops who are like they'll lose their job if they let people in because.
Can I do devil's advocate here and say, what if them, like, I have no clue, but what if them stopping the border was stopping medicine from getting to other people too?
Well, and you can sort of attest to this because you were there when you saw they're letting ambulances through. They're letting people who are, you know, if they're saying like we're carrying stuff that people need right now, they're letting them through.
See, what they need is some sort of provincial sort of blockade passport system where you can get
Right.
through it if they scan the QR code. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, right? So
Now
for a few days there,
we're
the mainstream media was saying, you know, this is blocked. No one's leaving. The truckers who are gridlocked here aren't getting food or water. But while that was happening, they were asking guys, if you want to leave, you can leave. We'll let you out. And they were letting people leave. So these guys weren't gridlocked. And some of them were actually gridlocked. And they went on City News, I think it was, saying like how scared they were. But I was there right beside that conversation. They were saying that they were scared of the cops. And there's videos circulating of those guys who were on the news, and they were literally dancing and partying, and like they were eating like kings, right?
I've seen that. It was yeah, I did see that.
Yeah, it was the brown gentleman,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So that guy, he was saying that he was scared, but they cut it so that they cut out the part where he's like, we're scared of the cops.
That's why right now with these journalists fucking whining and crying
They're
right now.
journalists, they're
Yeah, I know.
Fine.
But they're not whining and bitching online. Not that I've seen yet.
No.
Anyways, I haven't took a deep dive in your Twitter. But these fucking, you know what? I will give Ryan Long credit for this by calling them content creators right now, because that's pretty much what the fuck it's coming down to, is who can produce a viral clip. It seems like by taking shit out of context, similar to like the Joe Rogan N-word compilation video. They did it to the Young Turks, of them ripping hard R's for 3 minutes. They've done it to the guy that had beef with him, that H3H3 podcast,
Ethan Klein.
yeah. They did it to him, and he's dropping, you know, N-words, all this.
See, the thing I've learned is just do a funny voice while you're doing it, because if they're going to make a compilation, then it's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, but
Did this podcast just devolve into tips to getting away with saying the N-word?
just when you thought we couldn't hit a new low.
But yeah, the media was chopping it up with all these people.
Yeah, but then when people come out whine and cry by coming and doing shit like that, of clipping up and putting a different narrative on top of it, and then they're like, well, I'm just doing my job. Well, do it good.
Yeah.
Be good at your fucking job.
You drove 3 hours to get there.
Yeah.
It's easier to hit record and tell the entire story, which is exactly what we do.
Yeah.
The only cuts I do is when I say, okay, thanks, man. That's the only cut I do on a video. Right?
As it should be.
And you know, my job, it might suck to hear this from a boss, but my job is easy. I press record.
Uh-oh.
It's not like it's like, you know what I mean. I press record and I stop record and I upload it.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
I mean, tell us more about how it was -30, though. Like, it's hard, too, right? Like, you earn your check.
But let me finish that
Fine,
thought
I
so I
know
don't
you
get in
work hard.
trouble.
Me too. I know you work hard.
But yeah, it's easier to tell the truth than it is to lie. They have to go home and spin it.
Yeah.
Like that's so much extra work.
You know, the
So
part
maybe
that really bothers me is the victim narrative of the mainstream media. So after the mainstream media lies about you, they walk into a crowd and the crowd's like, hey, you lying bastard. You said all this shit about me that isn't true. And so you give them a piece of your mind, and the media takes that clip of them getting yelled at, and then they put it on Twitter and they say, look at how mean the truckers are to me. They're the worst. And it's like, they're way nicer than I would be, actually. If I caught you lying about me, calling me a white supremacist, and I got to see you in person, you better run.
That's a huge.
You better run
allegation,
fast.
Right?
Well,
like,
for
it's
me,
not like this is a mean person.
There's one guy from the CBC who, I think it was just this morning, he went last night into the truckers' protest in Ottawa, and he said, oh, what are you guys going to do if Child Protective Services comes and takes your kids? Well, that would put me right off the rev limiter, I'll tell you that much. And likewise with them, they're like, who's coming to take my kids? I'm here for my kids. My kids are in the cab of my truck. They're perfectly fine. They're in the friggin' bouncy castle right now, or they're in the street party. and they're screaming at this CBC guy who's just basically being the messenger for the devil. And the CBC guy clips that, puts it on Twitter, and says, "Look how mean everybody is to me." Because he's the victim.
That's what I mean by they're fucking content creators.
Yeah.
You provoke somebody, you drag them in, you get your clip, and you put it up. I got my views there.
YouTube prank videos.
It is, yeah.
That's all it is.
Yeah.
It's bum fights.
Well, they did an interview in the Edmonton comedy scene. I think it's View Weekly, and they came.
Is that still around?
This is way back. But
sorry.
they were going around and interviewing comedians, and they asked if they could interview me, and I'm smart enough to say no. And what happened is they took everything out of context, created this huge rift in the scene. People were saying, "Oh, at this comedy club, we don't have like misogyny or sexism or anything."
So you're
and then
boring.
and they would cut it up. Yeah.
Exactly.
But they would cut it up so it seems like they're calling the other club this horrible thing.
Yeah.
And they went back and forth with this, and holy smokes. It's one of those things, like, if somebody pulls out a camera and a microphone and asks for my opinion, like, well, I mean, I'll give it, but it's one of those things you got to be real careful what you say.
Yeah. That's my entire job at Rebel News, is making sure every day we don't burn the company down.
Oh, I'm like, is making other people's work?
No, just like making sure we haven't done anything or said anything
Good.
crazy or published anything crazy. Like, and especially with YouTube, you guys know you're on YouTube, so the rules are crazy. Cannot question the advice of a public health officer because, I don't know, it's some kind of deity now. They're like the Pope.
Yeah.
Or, you know, like you can't.
We can't even call each other our favorite little nicknames.
Yeah. Or
No.
you're
Are
gone.
you guys
You're
still
gone forever.
monetized?
You
Yeah,
guys are
we are.
monetized still.
Barely.
Yeah.
Good for you guys.
Hold on.
How? I don't know. I have no idea. It'll take one of these YouTube whatever
Oh,
fucking.
for sure.
But you said the V word a few times there, so I was
The V?
wondering.
We have
Vegan? Are we not allowed? We meant
the
pussy.
the Vax word.
Oh, yeah.
So I was wondering if you guys just were like, screw it, but
Yeah.
Oh,
we
I
can't
didn't know.
even- We are under such scrutiny
eat
that we
cheese.
can't even talk about vaccines. We can't talk about vaccine mandates.
But they're also creating a job because somebody now has to watch your thing full time
Sweet.
and like report you as soon as it gets uploaded.
It's my biggest stress because I have to watch they'll catch the signs in the background of, like in our B-roll of our videos. I have to make sure that,
99% like this tiny in the corner.
yeah.
That could screw us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah, any, like Bill Gates, any of that nonsense, I'm like, blur that or find different B-roll because it'll nuke our whole channel.
Wow.
This might like be derailing the conversation. I'm honestly curious what you guys have to say. Like, okay, I'll tell you right now. I was at one of the trucker, the first one in Edmonton. I kind of cruised by, checked it out, and then left. And I didn't really see anything that interesting. I checked the police scanner. Everyone was like, "Oh, it was very nice."
Yeah.
But then the stories start to come out. They're like, well, there was a swastika over here. And then my friends who were like passionate anti-vaxxers are like, no, there's no swastika. Or if it was a plant. And now I've heard two stories, which I have no firsthand knowledge of either way. And then I check the internet, and both these stories just start to proliferate. The one side is saying the one thing, the other side saying the other thing. There's no real evidence either way. It's just, trust me, here's what I saw. So what I guess I'm trying to say is it's very easy to mislead large amounts of people
Sure.
in the modern age. I'm sure we can all agree on that you can very effectively lie to huge swaths of people if you want. Should there be a control on that, on what you're allowed to
No.
show? Do you think the
No.
solution is like no controls at all?
And I think that we're at Rebel News. Maybe I could speak on this.
Sure.
We're pretty clear. Like, sure, we'll comment and say, "Oh yeah, that's a Fed." You know what? What anti-masker?
Yeah,
quote
we're not
unquote,
gonna
puts a
hide.
mask on. But at the
Yeah.
same time, it's like, if he is there on his own intentions and he is legit, that's an individual, right? And
Well,
he should be.
not only
the
that-
consequences should be on him as an individual, not the entire group.
Not only that, like, and I'll say because I'm in charge of journalism, if you see that guy, you guys know, I want you to go talk to him. First of all, I don't want just what we saw with the guy in Ottawa with his Nazi flag that nobody talked to. The mainstream media took his picture, but
He had a
nobody went
personal
over
photographer as well.
and talked to him. And I'm
I've-
like, you guys go find him, ask him who he is, give him some tough questions.
What do you work for?
Yeah, who do
I've
you
got a
work for? How much did
finance-
Justin
my,
Trudeau
My
give you?
brain runs off of dollar signs because stereotypes.
Yeah.
But like, wouldn't you go and you'd call him a Fed and he could sue you for money if he isn't, right? That would be like libel or something, wouldn't it? Wouldn't
I
it
don't
be
know how
wouldn't he
much
have
the
a-
guy carrying the
financial-
swastika around is worried about his public reputation.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like
Want to meet his
also,
lawyer.
But like,
I'll say
you
if I was running the Freedom Convoy, I would have paid my buddy to show up in a swastika, and then I would have gotten me on camera hitting him with a rock, and then I'd be like, "See, we're against Nazis. I just hit that guy with a rock." Like a T-shirt or something.
like
That would have been my deep fake, but.
No, but that's the thing is if we're going to, let's say Justin Trudeau wins the next, you're going to be our
He probably will.
But he wins and somebody stands behind him and lifts up like a swastika, and I'm not condoning this. Somebody lifts up a swastika, and then they're like, he's a white supremacist. It's like, no, proximity to a symbol doesn't turn you into that.
Well, I'm sure you've heard the old German saying that if you see a table of 11 people dining and there's 10 people and one Nazi, you're looking at a table of 11 Nazis. The idea being that there's some views that are so beyond the pale that you can no longer accept them, which I think is, I don't know, it's kind of true. I have a hard time with it. I'll be honest. One of the issues that I flip-flop on is how should you respond to someone who's openly being a Nazi in public.
There's a video there of one of the guys walking around with the Confederate flag with at a anti-mask quote-unquote with the mask on of all the Canadians like
boys
like,
are
get
at
the
it
hell
again.
out of here, right? Like leave. Go.
They came up and they confronted him, and that's I think the point is if you don't want these people associated with you, you have to
aggressively push them out of your group.
So they weren't sitting at the table with them.
No, I get that. And also, like, my
that's
friend
the
Ahmed made
mentality
a
of
good
the
point that I
plant.
think this does distract from what we're actually like trying to talk about, which like I don't want to derail the thing on like how do we deal with Nazis is a whole different conversation. So like I will say all the pro-trucker people I know are staunchly anti-racist as well. Not all of them are even white people. So I don't think that's a totally fair thing that you guys are getting painted with.
Some of those hauls, like when you're on the ice road and you're driving for 16 hours, you're just happy to see a person.
Another
you don't
human
care about
being.
skin color. You've been alone with your own thoughts, and that's a scary place to be when you're carrying that much weight at that speed.
I refuse to believe any race that I am a part of could possibly be the best one.
And like, let's be honest, like how many fucking dudes are out there still trying to fight the good fight of like the Ku Klux Klan?
Yeah, right.
That's actually
You know what I
think
mean?
it's
The
trickier.
supply of racist does not meet the demand. That's what I think. And I think that's a good news story.
Wow.
But the left doesn't think so.
Okay.
They're just like they think Nazis are everywhere. And I'm like, no, they aren't anywhere,
I
which
actually,
is great.
I 100% agree with you on this. I think like it is a good sign when we see more like people of color, non-white people, whatever you want to use, joining the right. I see that as a sign of progress, or even like more gay people being like, I am openly conservative. I think that is a good thing for society. But I don't know. That ties into another question I have with you. We can make it like protest specific if you want. Is there's one thing for like standing up for what you believe in, but how do you try to market to people who don't yet agree with you? Like the thing about the honking, you mentioned the noise pollution. I'm guessing if you're running a protest, one of the things you have to think about is, well, on the one hand, we want to make our cause known, but on the other hand, we don't want to unite everyone against us. Like, is that, I know you guys are journalists, you're not part of the cause. Is that something they're thinking about? Is like, do they try to balance like, well, we want to make ourselves at least somewhat attractive to people who are still on the fence? Or are they like, no, we have to express that we've had enough, and if people get mad, they get mad?
Well, personally, as like a journalist and a content creator at the same time, just in the way
He's
that
on board.
Just in the way that I market like the videos that I do, it's just like I make them more appealing for youth, right? So that's where I go.
So you're like, here's what the convoy looks like in Minecraft.
Yeah.
No, I mean like people my age. Like I'm only 23, right?
What?
Yeah.
Oh,
Gross,
shit.
my
Yeah.
son
The
is that
beard.
age.
What? You're 23?
Yeah.
Gross.
Damn.
Oh,
So people.
And he
like,
killed Epstein.
Yeah. And you've accomplished a lot.
So like people
Strapping
like
young
4
lad.
years younger than me, right? Like when I don't even know half the things you guys are talking about because I wasn't politically aware at all.
Yeah.
Like I would have voted for Justin Trudeau if I cared about voting at the time because he was going to make my school free.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if I can just make what we have to say as like this is the message, and even this is their message as the people. If I can make that appealing, like that's the only way I market it. Really, is so that people my age will digest it properly.
Do you ever get any pushback from like the older school people who hate youth?
Oh man,
As like a lot of
I go-
conservatives
Yeah.
are crusty old bastards who
Glad
hate
you
the
asked
kids.
that. That was my question. Because it's always, like some grumpy old man.
I feel
What
like
the
I'm
fuck does this
straddling
have?
both worlds.
Yeah.
I can answer that as an editor, and I think Sheila would probably be the best to answer that further. But as an editor, like I add a lot like a music to the videos that I make, right? Just so people are like, ooh, what's this? And you see like a bunch of YouTube comments with like the the egg or whatever, like the no profile picture and some random name with like 21 after. It's like,
With
turn
their
this music down.
with
I
their
can't
phone
hear."
number, their
Yeah, and
Gmail address.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
there's
you're
nothing behind the
old.
music. You're just watching something pretty for a few seconds, so the kids will watch, right? That's me as an editor.
That makes sense. Does it go like obviously you guys? I know you're journalists, not activists, but you clearly work for an organization that has a pretty staunch conservative perspective. When you see things like, oh, hey, we got some gay people becoming conservatives, we got some black people, some brown people becoming conservatives. How do you deal with the element that doesn't like that? Like, do you say like, sorry, your time has passed? Do you try to like make a bridge? What do you?
No,
what do you do?
I don't really care about those people because I'm not an ethnic conservative. I am a social conservative, but in that, I think that for social conservatives and social libertarians, I think we unite on the cause of leave me alone. Like that's where I'm at.
It's old school liberal. I think that
Yeah.
Ezra says. I'm an old school liberal.
Yeah. I'm
know?
at that freedom is for everybody.
Yeah.
And I think a government that's big enough to care about what religion I am or who you're married to is a government that's way too big. I think freedom is for everybody. And so, like, I think it's funny because we were talking about this the other day about how do you appeal to the young people as, like, the third oldest person at the company I am. And you're the same age as my kid, which just gives me the heebie-jeebies. But, you know, like, young people, they don't like being told what to do.
Nobody does.
That
No.
for sure.
No.
But that's the thing. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Because
That's
I
why
know
I like that shit.
that's the thing. So when I'm talking to my son who's 23 or my daughter who's almost 16, you know, when we're talking to them about conservative values or whatever, I like to remind them, you know how you don't like when I'm telling you to do things around the house and I'm sort of bossing you around a little bit. I'm like, that's how I feel about the government. Welcome to conservatism. Hold that in your heart forever.
But I mean, like the government does do some good. They're to be mistrusted, monitored,
It
everything.
should fit on a postage stamp, I think.
Yeah.
I moved here because of Jason Kenny to Alberta.
Oh, the old bait and switch.
Wow.
He got me. He got me.
Wow.
Where from?
Gotcha.
Where from?
Just north of Toronto. Like I packed up my car and I left.
Recently, like during all this.
In
In
the
April.
summer of
In
love.
April.
April. I saw a video of him saying, "Oh, what's this great reset? No, it's never coming to Alberta. We're not doing vaccine passports. We're not doing any of this stuff." I'm like, okay, I'm in Alberta now. Like Ontario
Same.
is the worst place in the country, in my opinion.
Well, they've been locked down for what, over 420 days
Yeah,
now?
it's the worst still.
It's
And I know
terrible.
so many comics
it's
from
insane.
there that have caught COVID like 8 times, and they're like, "Okay, it's over. Let us out."
Yeah, but all them fucks come out here to do comedy, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Every single one of them is left and like, oh, yeah, it's not so bad out there until they get here, and then they're able
Like
to do
Ahmed.
stand-up again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like an Ahmed.
Ahmed's
Great
one of
Ahmed,
them. That's
Ahmed.
we got a token Jew and a token immigrant on this show.
Muslim and a Jew. Yeah.
We got all the groups. You got the token Jew, the token sometimes lefty, the token retard. I'm just kidding, my
See, we get
differently abled
demonetized
friends.
occasionally.
Taking cheap shots.
Hey,
Oh, man.
when you see a shot open, you take it.
Yeah.
Dwayne Glinsky.
You miss 30% of the shots that you aren't drinking.
Yeah.
Man said that once.
That sounds accurate.
No, but that's interesting that you did pack up and come all the way out here. So now it probably pisses you off that you had to go through all that bullshit. Because that was right. You would have got here right when we were opening up for
Yeah, the
open-
best
The
summer
best
ever.
summer ever.
Yeah, my ass.
I
yeah.
honestly I wasn't mad. Like it's the government was the same all across the country at one point, right?
Yep.
But the people of Alberta made it so much different. The people were
Yeah.
just like, screw this, I don't care. There's so many places you could walk in without a mask on.
Well,
And
it's
not-
the
you can't do
Alberta
that there.
attitude is make me, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're the ungovernables.
Fuck you.
Yeah.
That's
really
what I
nailed
fucking.
the Alberta
I-
accent there.
Hey, bud. Yeah,
Hey,
no.
bro.
I love that shit. Like.
I'm old enough to remember driving around the back of a pickup truck in Alberta and like smoking in restaurants and like it, and then like all of that just got taken and they told you like, oh, it's healthier, oh, it's better, oh, it's good, and like it just stopped making sense at a certain point. They were trying so hard to protect us and spending so much money on it. And it's like, you know how many people would fall out the back of a pickup truck and die? None. My uncle fell out 3 times.
I
He's
fell
fine.
out.
Yeah.
I've fallen out.
I fallen out too.
My
And,
dad stopped on the second bounce and picked me up.
Yeah,
It was
that's
fine.
how
My
it
mom's
was.
cousin died. Yeah, I grew up on the farm too.
All right, one
nice.
person.
Okay, 1 out of several.
Red
Okay,
blankets.
let's just go with that point though. Like, I'm honestly, I'm curious for the conservative opinion. It stops making sense at a point, but like, I think most people agree there is a point
There's a
also
point,
where
yeah.
it does make sense.
Oh,
So like,
yeah.
how do you draw that point? Like something a COVID comparison that I actually thought worked pretty well was in New York during World War II. There was enforced blackouts, and there was because they didn't want to get bombed. They knew there was like, or they, at least they thought there might be battleships off the shore that were going to bomb them. So they turned the lights of New York out, and there was businesses that refused to shut down. They're like, basically that. Why don't you come and make me? It's my business. I'm not afraid of any battleship. I'm keeping it on. They sent the cops in, and they made them. So that is something where in the name of like public safety, they said this is of the public interest. We're going to shut that down. You have to do what we're saying you have to do for the war effort. Like,
Have you got COVID?
I have had COVID, yeah.
That's a terrible comparison.
Yeah.
I got COVID. It was like I coughed until I puked.
Half
but
my
It was
family
fine.
has it right now. They've got the Omicron sniffles, and yeah, I agree with you. That's a terrible.
There's a
but I
bomb
also-
coming. Sure, turn the light off. I'll turn the light
Yeah,
off.
Yeah,
That's
but
fine.
the same thing was okay. Here, I can make an even more direct
that's a
answer. Typhoid Mary, and like you probably heard
Yeah.
that term, Typhoid Mary. She, for those of you folks at home who don't know, she was someone who did not believe in germs. She thought germ theory was nonsense. She refused to accept that she was spreading typhoid. So they gave her a choice. You can either forcefully get your gallbladder removed, I think it was, which like makes it so you can't spread typhoid, or you can spend the rest of your life in prison. And she took the surgery. Because there was like that is a disease. Diseases are getting spread. And by the way, I agree. I think that how bad the disease is a factor in this. But I still think that like, okay, the public health is at play here. That's like that's the battleground that we're dealing with. Like where is the line? I guess that's what I'm saying.
Even without COVID, like where is the line of where the government should be involved in? our
Yeah,
life?
that's
Yeah,
kind of what I'm
that's
saying.
sort of
Like,
what I'm thinking.
where's the line of what the government is supposed to be doing?
I'm a civil liberties absolutist. I think civil liberties exist to protect us, especially during the bad times, not during the good times. It's also like free
I
speech.
think Justin Trudeau said that about the charter,
yeah,
right?
he did that once. He didn't mean it.
Wow. Yeah. When did
It
he
was a-
say
Yeah,
that?
said
Yeah,
that.
it was like
What?
10 years ago.
Only
Yeah.
unpopular views need legal protection.
Right
That's
now.
one of the best civil libertarian points.
But-
Only unpopular views need legal protection. If it's popular, we wouldn't need a law protecting it.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's the thing with
Yeah.
free speech. And I can
Oh,
say
it
this.
is the
if only
thing with
we
free
if only we
speech.
had free speech.
If only. But, you know, like we can say that we have actually carried through on this. For example, I think it was Progress Alberta, one of those awful union-backed publications. They were trying to get into the Alberta legislature, and they couldn't. They were blocked by Jason Kenney. And we had spent thousands of dollars on legal research to get us into the Alberta legislature, going back to when Rachel Notley threw me out. And then to make sure that we got accredited through Jason Kenney. So we had lawyers who had done the legal research. And then when we found out that Progress Alberta had been blocked, you know what we did? I laughed a little bit. But then we gave them our legal research and for free that we had paid for. And we said, you know what? Free speech and the free press is for everybody, not just us.
Yeah.
Use this, make your argument, and get in. And they did. Now, after that, they still went and shit-talked us on the internet.
They
But
didn't even say thank you, did they?
didn't even say thank you, jackasses. But whatever, because
Not
we
even
know,
an
we know
emoji.
we know we did the right thing. And so that's the thing about being a civil liberties absolutist. It's got to be for the guy you disagree with, too.
Well, it's like the whole Joe Rogan says the N-word, Justin Trudeau has a black face, and some people are like ready to set the world on fire for
Yeah.
one, but the other is a free pass.
Exactly.
So it's like that's something I think people have to be aware of our own bias as people, as consumers of media even. Be aware of our own bias, apply it to ourselves, and not be hypocritical in our actions
It's
that we
tough.
take.
Well, like
It's
one
tough.
dude's got a podcast and the other one runs a country.
True, too.
Like-
And the one dude with the podcast,
It's a good podcast and it's huge, but like,
and the one dude
Dude.
with the podcast is not making legislation
yeah.
to censor the internet for people that he has deemed racist.
Yeah,
That's
he
the
just
thing.
smokes weed and talks to famous people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Joe Rogan might be the most culturally influential person in North America. Like, I
Yeah,
do think
I
he's
do
a
too.
big deal. I don't want to, but yeah, that's fair.
But he's also not in charge of any military that I know of.
But that's exactly why they want to censor him, right?
Like
Because
it makes total sense to me.
Yeah.
He like you ever heard that old cliche? There's only two people who matter in the world: people who make money and people who make opinions.
Yeah.
He makes opinions.
And money.
He
And
opinions.
money.
That's
Yeah,
true.
he's
He makes
both.
100
both.
million. He turned down
Schmilly- or
100
Schmilly,
million
yeah.
from Rumble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
he's-
And
he's
100
pretty
gazillion from Odyssey.
Yeah. Or whatever their
Yeah.
I'll give him a
Money's
jillion.
is
There's my offer.
library
on the table right now.
cryptocurrency.
$10 if he wants to appear on the podcast. We've never paid a guest
Wait,
before.
I was gonna say you're paying people.
Only him. It's a special offer.
I'll let him
In
paint
liquor.
me naked.
And liquor.
That offer
Slow-
is actually open to
10
all
liters
guests.
of liquor and you're good.
Yeah.
Okay? That is funny, though. But with Rogan has put some big names on. Like, he's helped so many comedians and voices that'll never get heard out there. And for that little smidget of hit piece of how many episodes does he have? Like 1,500, 1,700 now?
Something, yeah.
Yeah.
He lost 100 or something, didn't he?
Oh, yeah. So we're down
I
to
heard he
1,600.
chose that though.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's right. He picked those podcasts to take off.
Which is fair enough. It's his podcast,
Yeah.
his show.
content.
And I don't feel that, everybody forcing to try and censor him is the high road to take out of this. I think it's the complete opposite. Open the speech up even more.
Yeah.
To combat hate speech. You need better speech, and that's the only way we're gonna get. Like you're seeing it here. It happened to Mike Ward,
Yep.
famous comedian here, who got charged for making fun of that retarded kid. At a I need the press, so I'm gonna say that. My views don't reflect on everybody
They don't
else's.
reflect us, K2.
No,
Yeah.
but you get where I'm going with this.
The potato child, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And the kid keeps hanging on to it and trying to sue him and get more money. He just beat the legal case, and now they're trying to reopen it again when it got taken to the Supreme Court, stamped, no, out the door.
Well, that's a
and he's
full-time
free.
job now because
Oh,
they get
yeah.
money. It's a full-time job
It's
to try and claw
He's
money.
the Canadian version of the Nirvana fucking kid on the album.
yeah.
That's who he is at this point. Is every fucking every year they're gonna be like, God, I gotta sue Nirvana because my child dick is on their CD or their album cover. It's basically what this is like turned into.
Just makes me think he really grew into that dick.
Yeah, no shit, no shit.
The most dangerous thing, though, I think that Joe Rogan does is that he talks to the other side.
Oh, yeah.
That's the one thing that the
Mm-hmm.
left can't stand is that he will reach across the table and say,
Prove me wrong.
prove me wrong. Let's have this discussion. As you say, meet speech with more speech.
Yeah.
That's what they can't stand.
The fact that they made a fucking list of left versus right and the people that were in the
Oh,
right.
it was a
Russell
terrible
Brand
list.
was
It
in the
was
right.
terrible.
Well, yeah, and then
I'm
the
gonna
people...
go. I don't even really like Joe Rogan that much. I'm not a Joe Rogan fan. That was a terrible list.
It was awful.
It
But
was-
also, how do you know that? Like, somebody can look at, like, Ahmed and go, he's a conservative, and you don't know how he votes or his you only know what he's doing a public appearance.
Yeah. Also, we got our first super chat, and Dave Shrigley says, "Long-haired guy is me, but with a goatee and skinnier."
That's Dave.
Dave, that's-
Dave, what up, Dave?
Oh, you know this guy?
Yeah, he works for
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
nice. He's an awesome dude.
Well, thanks for the tip, Dave. We appreciate it.
Love you, Dave.
Oh, I don't know. It's a weird thing when you make a list and go, these people are this and these people are that.
These are Justin Trudeau's
Yeah.
people with acceptable opinions, and these are the unacceptable
Well,
opinions.
usually people that are making a list about people's political opinions.
Yeah.
That's a scary thing in itself.
Yeah.
Lists are never good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
lists aren't good.
Schindler, you know.
Yeah.
Unless it's
Santa?
Sam Walker,
Naughty.
aka Stan Frank's
Stan
list.
Frank.
Yeah, his list.
I'll say, yeah, connected to that, like I really think that one of the biggest problems facing society today is it's getting increasingly tribal, which to be fair, humans always are.
Sure.
And we like to have teams. But it's very much like I just want my team to win. I don't even care about what the issue is. I want my team to win. But you guys, like I'm not trying to accuse you. I'm honestly curious what you have to say here. You're like part of a right-wing newscast. Do you feel that you participate in that you're like, okay, we're picking a side and we want our team to win too? Like, have you ever surprised yourselves by the side that you've taken? Like, oh, hey, maybe you thought that was a left-wing issue, but we're jumping on it also. Or like
Ask
other than
Jason Kenney about how critical I am of him, right? Like I don't think I have a side. My politics are leave me alone. And I think right now the breakdown in politics right now is not left, right, it's not conservative or liberal or NDP. It's to quote my friend Gavin, it's people who want to be left alone and people who won't leave them alone. And I think that's where we're at right now. And I think at these protests, these are a great example. The Great Honkening is a great example that it is not left, right, or anything. It's, again, people who want to live their lives and be left alone, and they want people to leave them alone.
It's exactly that. I don't care who wins as long as, you know.
Are they going to leave
my
me
bill
alone?
at the
Let me
end of
keep
the
my
month
money
doesn't go
because
up.
that's what I want.
Here's the question I got for you. You're a journalist. You've been doing it for a while. Have you ever found a point where you've politically shifted as a person, or has that like been cemented in your values?
I don't think that. Like, I think I come by my small c conservatism, honestly. I sort of I'm from a farm. I'm still on the family farm. My husband is in oil field trucking. And one of my earliest memories is actually my parents worrying about money because of the National Energy Program. Like, I remember it vividly, just like vividly realizing that there was a real problem. And I was just too little to understand. And so, and then sort of coming of age as the wheat board protests were happening. And for me, growing up in rural Alberta, there's nobody who's going to help you but yourself, maybe your neighbors. It's definitely not the government. So for me, it's never been like, oh, my guy is the premier, he's going to look out for me. That's not where I'm at. I want to make sure that Jason Kenney does the conservative things he said he would do. And if he's not, well, then I'm going to be his loudest critic because I don't like Rachel Notley. She has crazy ideas. But Jason Kenney told me one thing. I don't want him to lie to me. And if he lies to me, well, then that's where you're going to get the criticism.
Is it kind of fair to say that, like, the National Energy and the wheat deal, those were events that kind of pushed you more towards conservative than liberal in your life?
I don't think that it was ever really an option for me. Like, I just don't think that growing up the way I did.
Yeah.
In a religious household.
You basically had no chance to be anything but what you are.
Just who I was going to be, and it formed who I was. But at the same time, I'm very open to discussions with the other side. I'm happy to have people challenge me on my ideas and say, well, I think you're being a little bit of a hypocrite. I'm happy to engage in that intellectual back and forth.
I ask because this convoy is an event where I'm seeing people that have always been leftist that way are now being pushed more to the right.
Yeah, and I think that's where we have to exhibit some grace towards them and say, well, it took you a long time to get around to our way of thinking, but get over here, you big lug, join the party.
You can't shame anyone into your beliefs, but I think the government is doing such a bad job that it's adjusting people politically now.
Well, we're out there evangelizing the good word of conservatism. When we get some converts, we have to, like, welcome them. We can't say, took you long enough, I told you so. We can't be like that.
What about when you get some people who you can tell continue to disagree with you on every issue other than this one? Is that like harder to, or at least is that a different bridge building experience when you know you're going to be doing battle with them on a different issue tomorrow?
I don't think it has to be battle. I think it just has to be putting up with each other. You know, I've got lots of friends that I grew up with that we are on the other side of 100 different things. And that's fine. Not everything is about politics. Not everything is about ideology. And I don't think it should be. But in the state of affairs in Canada today and in pop culture, it really is. You can't listen to this guy because his politics are wrong. You can't watch a Mel Gibson movie. Can't watch a Clint Eastwood movie because he's a conservative. Like, who cares? Just
I'm
go
gonna
and
step
be
in
there.
and defend Clint Eastwood. Mel Gibson did way worse stuff than just be a conservative.
100%. You know what? It's fine. But, like, look what happened to The Rock in the span of, like, 72 hours.
Oh, yeah, when he supported Joe Rogan and then pulled his support.
He's
and
only
it's like,
unpopular with loons on Twitter. He's still, like, the most popular
Hey,
celebrity
man, I'm
in
still a
America.
big fan
like,
of the
who
people's
cares?
elbow.
Yeah,
okay?
me too. I just don't know why I have to care about somebody's politics before I like the things they do.
Michael Jordan refused to speak out about politics, and they asked why, and he said conservatives buy shoes too.
Dolly does the same
Yeah.
thing. Dolly Parton does the same thing. She's like, no, I don't ever ask me. She'll shut down an interview. Sweetest lady that God ever made. She'll shut down an interview when it wanders into politics.
Yeah,
because
that'll go
it's unnecessary.
right from 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Easiest, lowest hanging fruit.
Oh. Wow, got a wacky comedian over here.
I don't know. Maybe I'll ask you guys that. That's something that I genuinely struggle with. Obviously, I want to be authentic when I'm being a comedian. I want to talk about things that I really think, but I don't want to drive people away. But then I don't want to be a cynical sellout who pretends to pander to people who,
Yeah.
you know.
Thing is,
This is a therapy session.
Yeah, for him, basically. This is Jesus, the next coming of Jesus here. No, you stage your political views, and then you point out the absurdities in them and kind of play into it. So you're always willing to, like, laugh at yourself politically, which I think is a fun thing. You're always willing to look with empathy from the other side, which is very rare.
Well, that's my next question to you was going to be, if you could change anything about the conservative movement, what would it be? And like, I'll just answer that question for anyone who like is watching me and thinks that I'm on your side. I think that like across the board, there's too much like aggressive. We have to defeat the other side. There's too much of a belief that life is a battle of good people versus evil people. And I don't really think that that's the case at all. And I wish that any side, I think that's across the spectrum, but I wish my side would stop doing that.
You should get into QAnon.
What?
Yeah.
There's a lot of evil people out there, pal.
Yeah. Pizza places.
Adrenochromes are delicious. If you had even one adrenochrome, you'd change
I'm
your...
just so happy that I haven't heard that since I read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and now it's in the news again.
Yeah.
I'm really
Yeah.
happy it's made a comeback.
It's come around.
Yeah.
Sorry, I
it's the
completely took
tribalism.
me.
Because conservatives are guilty of tribalism too. I know I'm not, or at least I try not to be, but I know, like, when I criticize, for example, Aaron O'Toole, which is all of a sudden he's not popular since he was forced out of the party.
He hasn't been popular since he was talking to a porta potty.
However, if you spoke out against him, like on Twitter or whatever, as I routinely do, I would be attacked by partisan conservatives. They'd be mad at me. And those are the same partisan conservatives now cheering on his ouster from the party. And I just think it's so intellectually dishonest. The same reasons I didn't like him, the same reasons I didn't like him. Now the party is saying, oh yeah, well, we don't like him for those same reasons too. Party throws him out, and then I'm supposed to be hard of remembering because he shit on me for 6 months for saying those exact same things. That's the part that really bothers me. It's just like, well, you know, maybe I'm just an early adopter of good ideas. I'm not sure.
What people do now is they read the headlines, form an opinion, or they think of what their peers have as an opinion, because that's way easier than actually doing the work and coming up with a genuine feeling on something.
Well, and I think it goes back to your thing about just cheering for your own team. You're just doing the thing that makes your team win and not doing the right thing. There's too much of that out there. What up, K2?
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I just love that there's people out there with rebellious spirit still.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what I fucking love, man. I grew up in rural Alberta too, so it was like Catholics, Christians. I went to a Catholic high school, so we had to do Bible studies, but I'd sit in the back and no, we didn't have.
No, not in Alberta.
No, not here, man. No, but I'd be in the back like reading Thrasher.
I went to a Christian junior high too.
Yeah, so I was like really influenced by, skateboarding, punk rock, and very anti-establishment, anti-authority. So it was like it was good. It felt good to tell somebody to go fuck themselves when they're kicking you out of a skate spot. So like seeing this like a fuck you back of like the working man or the working woman that is now in Ottawa or these blockades. I like that spirit.
Yeah,
we
too.
need more of that. Like you not get confrontational to the point where violence needs to happen, but the fact that conversation is happening at least. You know what I mean?
Well, and I like this sense of how scared the elites are, that the proletariat is figuring out that they actually have all the power. You could see them shitting their pants in real time.
Well, Canada doesn't have a Bastille Day yet, do we?
When did they converge on Ottawa? We should make that our Bastille Day. But yeah, like you could see that this is, it is a class war. It's classism. And you can see that, the working class is the useful people are scaring
essential.
they're scaring the daylights out of the useless people.
How are you gonna make a big speech about how we all need to get along better and then say anyone who has a job that involves a computer is a useless person?
Look, we work on the computers all day long.
That's
I will agree. I am
kinda
100% useless.
I try not to fight homeless people all day.
Obviously, you and I are useless.
Yeah.
Surely there's someone out there.
I think the difference is we acknowledge that there are people that without them, the world would just not go around.
Well, here's sort of my example. I worked in unions, and I'm a pro-union guy, but there are so many people that abuse protection from the unions.
Oh, for sure.
There are so many people that would show up at work and would do absolutely nothing all day and then leave and just get a check. And, like, there are useless people in a system like that. But it does good. It protects some workers and fights for rights, but that's a whole other issue.
I don't think it does with the COVID stuff, though.
Yes.
Well, see, I think the issue with, again, I got a lot of very close friends who are very enthusiastic about this, so I don't want to be talking about it as if I don't know what you guys are talking about. I've got sympathies. But your movement is, I think you overestimate how popular it is. I think there are a lot of working class people who love vaccines and wish that you guys would just get vaccines. And I think that you're overpainting it as a class. I think that's hugely an element, especially of the criticism on social media. It's hugely classicist. No argument there. But I think, like, even you were talking about that one community, I'm sorry, I forget the name. Lacrete. 35% is not nothing. That's even, like, pretty good uptake. And then there's plenty of, like, working class communities across Canada where, like, I mean, the Alberta, the most, like, anti-vax province in Canada, has a vaccination rate. I think it starts with an 8 at this point. Like,
but
that's pretty high.
With government coercion.
Yeah, but that coercion's just hitting the fence sitters. The people were like, well, I'll get it someday. And then I guess I'll get it today. The hardcore people are clearly still not getting it.
No, there are people like me who are faced with the decision of getting vaccinated or not watching their kids play sports.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of parents that I know who are in tears, sitting in their cars, watching their kids on a live stream instead of being in the crowd cheering on them. So that is absolutely not fence sitting. That's coercion.
I know that those people are out there, and I totally agree that they count. And I don't like the way that some people are trying to dismiss them as a fringe minority with inappropriate views, but they still are a minority. And I hear a lot of people, this is the working class rising up.
I think you're going to say this, but I think you're discounting the number of people who are vaccinated in these protests who are saying, what I did was a choice. I believe in the choice for everybody else, and they are there together. I think
that's me.
The
I
protest.
think I could speak
That's
to that
me.
where
Yeah.
I think at this point it's more vaccinated people than unvaccinated people.
Yeah,
Like,
100% it is.
and a lot of those truckers down in Coutts, they're from the States.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, some of them were like, don't get me on camera because I'm not from here.
Not to keep jumping around, but how is that
Amen.
different from the people from Vancouver who are jumping like over to Fairy Creek to where they don't live to say don't chop these trees down?
Because these are guys who have to cross the border as part of their job, so they have some ties to the border crossing.
I see what you're saying. I definitely agree that this is more popular amongst the working class, but I still feel, I don't know, I guess the size of I'm going to go mostly off the size of the protests. Like, they are getting a few thousand people out there. I don't think it's fair to call them a fringe, but that's still, most working class people are at home and not donating to this and getting vaccinated.
Well, but entire Canadian communities
Yeah.
are pouring out onto the highway,
Yep.
minus 30 degrees, to cheer on these truckers.
Yep.
So people who are not able to manifest at a protest, or they're just not protesters. I know a lot of people who are
minus
just like,
30.
I'm not
I'll
into
give
protesting.
you, this is the fig leaf that I guess I can offer, is it's hard to measure the people who don't care either way.
I
But
think-
most people aren't taking part in the protest one way or the other, whether that means they're opposed to it or whether they're like kind of shruggers.
I think if we
I don't
put
know.
this into context, though, and I
I
think
said
our
fig
boss,
leaf. I meant olive branch. Sorry.
it's fine. Fig leaf covers
Different
your
page in the Bible.
junk. Ezra put this into context when he was on, I think it was Tucker last week. He said,
I feel like Fox should be cutting us a check
I know,
for all the
right?
Talker talk we're
I know.
doing here.
but he
Very
said that
good-looking.
if you put this into context, there, when they raise nearly $10 million in Canada, the
Yeah.
truckers do, that's almost $100 million in the U.S. Imagine a single movement raising $100 million.
Yeah, Spotify.
In the US.
BLM.
Raising it for Joe Rogan.
BLM. But
yeah,
this is-
Spotify just gave $100 million to marginalized groups.
Yeah, but
That's a company. Yeah.
That's a company do it. This is a grassroots movement of people who can't be on the convoy, who don't know what else to do, but they see these guys making a stand because everybody fell down on the job. The academics, the politicians, the public health necromancers, they all did the wrong thing. These truckers are going to do the right thing, and they don't know what to do except toss them a 20. And so when you put that into context, if you have seen a private grassroots group raise $100 million in the United States you would have your socks knocked off. That's what they did in Canada.
The only grass that I've seen raise that sort of money is Aurora's growing right outside of Edmonton right now.
Are they making money down there?
I think they're finally starting to get out of the red, but
Black market weed will always be better.
Definitely
I'll say it. I'll
Just
say
because
it.
of rebellion?
That and it's forced the black market to produce a better product now for cheaper and equal prices. So you're seeing an uptick of like people, obviously like regular smokers like Nick and I. I'm just gonna go to the fucking store because I'm not gonna track down because I need to have fire bud. Yeah, I don't give a fuck. Those shitty joints that they have fuck me up, and I'm well aware of it. And I don't need a cannon of the Snickle Fritz that's gonna take me to
Hog's
Pluto.
leg.
Yeah. My uncle, he's been smoking since he was like 12.
Yeah.
And he's like 40 now, and he moved out here just a month ago. And he's like, I'm so excited. Like maybe they got the stuff from BC, and now he's shipping it from Ontario back to here because he doesn't like it. From the stores. Right?
There's like I've heard of a few guys that are growers and they take the shit that is excellent and it's fucking the best, and they just sell it on the black market because they get way better prices on it, and it's a better product at the end of the day.
Well, the thing that and I know we're way off topic here. The thing that I love,
we got onto weed.
Yeah,
Way
but
on a tangent.
we got into the weeds. But the thing that I love is I can grow my own weed plant. Like, are we not able to grow our own tobacco plants? Because I can't buy tobacco seed anywhere.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I assume it's just harder to do.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
It's like, isn't it's illegal to touch a tobacco plant in Ontario? Is that the same?
Yeah, I know in some parts
We don't
in
have
Canada.
tobacco here.
No.
In some parts in
we don't
Canada,
have the
you're not
climate.
allowed to
In Ontario, it's like a federal thing.
Which
like
it's
you
so
touch it.
it's ridiculous. That's another example of government getting too
Yeah.
big. I want to grow it to put in my body. Like, yeah, if I'm gonna sell it, make me get a license or something. Great, do that. But I should be able to grow a fucking plant and some exceptions maybe, but. Yeah,
They're
it's
like
tobacco.
this with milk, though, not
I
even
know.
tobacco. Like,
It's
if you
crazy.
want unpasteurized milk, straight to jail. We've
Well,
got special jails for people who want
Just you wait till
unpasteurized milk.
Trudeau gets elected again, and then you're gonna pump your breast milk. The government has to inspect it before your baby can have it.
Yeah.
We'll put a tax on human milk.
Obviously, I put human milk in my coffee every morning. But that I always thought that was the best part of having kids is the money you save on coffee creamer. But I guess I don't know what I'm talking about.
In case you're wondering if Mennonites are weird.
I left the community. Don't paint those people with my brush.
You voted for Trudeau, and they kicked you out.
Yeah. As soon as you started going pro-vaccine talk, they're like,
Yep.
I guess
enough of this guy.
one thing, because we talked earlier, and the weird thing was you came on and the first thing you said about Rachel Notley was positive, which I thought would be completely opposite. So I got to ask you, it's really easy to get caught up in we all hate Justin Trudeau. What has he, I like that he's legalized weed. What are some things that he's done that you think are beneficial?
I don't really see any.
No?
I really don't.
No?
I really don't. Like, on the issues that I care about, internet freedom.
Freedom of speech.
Freedom of speech, he's terrible. Internet freedom, he's terrible. Civil liberties, awful. Oil and gas, terrible. Taxation, terrible. He took away income splitting, which is, Canadian families structuring how
taxes,
how
Banned
they
a
see
bunch
fit.
of guns.
Yeah.
Banned a bunch of guns. Like, these are all the things that I care about and that touch me directly. He's awful on. He could not be more polar opposite than me on all these issues.
Wow.
Yeah.
I really like the weed thing.
I just don't care.
Yeah,
I just
but
don't care.
the weed thing can go back to like
it's
weed.
inconsequential because you're buying a black market anyway.
Yes,
Or you would.
I would. Yeah, I definitely would. I'm not a.
Nick didn't smoke it till it was legal.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
a nerd.
I don't do crimes.
I
normally.
smoked it all through high school. It was the greatest time ever. But I don't know, like the weed
Seems like
thing
a
though.
bad reason to vote for a guy when he's doing all that other shit.
Yeah, but
Well-
it came with a bunch of laws on top of it. Before you get nicked for a dime bag or whatever, an eighth, and it was just like, a slap on the wrist. Where now there's
Drop you at home to your mom.
now there's fucking driving laws and all these different laws came into place. So it was like, hoorah, fucking legal weed.
Yeah.
And now there was more legal that came behind marijuana. So I mean,
He
That's
dangled
true.
that right in front of people who
Yeah.
are my age.
yeah,
He said,
that's
"Here, vote for
100%
me."
what he did.
And
So
then they all got screwed.
and
You're
then
not gonna have a
as
job to buy weed, but here's the weed.
yeah, exactly. So as everybody's hooting and hollering like we got legalized marijuana in Canada now, they also back end loaded it with a bunch of new laws that came into place, which is kind of, I don't know. I get it. I get it. If you're going to legalize it, you have to have those in steps.
Yeah.
It's same with drinking. Drinking's legal, so we don't want stoned people behind the wheel because it's, you're.
Also, there is a quality thing too if you're consuming it. Like you're talking about milk. I don't have a fun factoid about milk, but I know in bread, like before like food FDA laws in the States kicked in the 20th century, they used to be really common to find like brick mortar mixed into bread all the time. Yeah, concrete to thicken it because it was super cheap. So there are some government things.
Of a black market.
It did take a while for them to work out the kinks, though, because you were getting a lot of moldy weed for a while. You're getting really moldy weed.
Yeah. No, it's I guess I don't know if fentanyl was ever added to weed or anything, but like I'm certain that people would cut it with something, oregano or sage.
You'd lace it with coke.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow. What? Then I'm like smoking weed. Smoke weed to go to sleep.
They would lace it with coke, and it would give you. Back in the day, Cocoa Puffs.
Expensive?
What's that?
Yeah, isn't coke more expensive?
It was more. I don't know the process of it, but like you would every now and then there'd be a dealer in town. They'd be like, "Hey, I got like Cocoa Puffs," and you'd be like, "Oh, okay."
Oh, well, okay. If they're lacing it on purpose,
like you knew it wasn't just like sneak. No, it wasn't like you were cutting cocaine with fentanyl. No, it was like, "Hey, I got this shit," and it was just like. I don't know, glazed with it or I don't know the process.
Honey glaze.
Yeah.
Can I just throw it back to you guys for a philosophical question? So you pointed out that at least Omicron is like not that bad, and I totally agree with that. Actually, I think that should be a factor that they consider making new laws. What if you had a disease that was super bad? Like picture whatever hypothetical disease. Is there a point at which you would say, okay, the public good demands vaccines or shutdowns or masks or whatever law, like where like you've kind of already said you're a free speech absolutist. Or freedom absolutist. What about yourself, Kian? Do you?
The government should still never have that right to coerce or put something into your body, ever.
Yeah.
I'm not for the government telling us how to live our lives or dictating our morality.
If you had 100% of the doctors saying yes, do this, and I saw when COVID-19 started and. You didn't see homeless people passing out and dying in the street.
Oh, that's something I want to talk about.
Right? You didn't see you didn't see your aunts. You go over for a cup of tea in the morning, and you didn't see her dead on the couch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You can't say like, what if it was worse? Because it's not worse, and
I was more just curious, like philosophically, like is there a point where you're like, okay, now safety demand, like that's like to go back to the beginning. I more or less agree with you that I think that you should be able to control your own body. If that means you want to do drugs, not get a vaccine, whatever, it's your body. That really is where authority ends. But we as a community, we do get a say who we let into buildings also. Like the people who are also in that building, they get a certain freedom of association.
You're right. If they started off with that, if Jason Kenney came out and said, starting now, if you're a private business and you don't want unvaccinated people in here, I would be fine with that. Let the free market crash them. Let the free market decide who gets to stay open. But he didn't start with that, and that's the problem. That he's now saying that is the case. So that means that he still has the power to revert back to it. He should have just started with it and let the free market decide who stays open.
Okay, Nick was quiet, so I'm going to argue with
that.
No,
I'm going to let you keep going.
I think that's a fair point. Other than it's still like I feel it's in the public interest how many people get COVID. Like let's say you have a very busy bar, shirt store, it doesn't matter what, and you're like, hey, we don't do vaccines here, and it's very popular, and the free market really embraces it, but all of a sudden hospitals start to get overwhelmed with COVID numbers. There's lots of things that the public curtails freedom on. Like we coerce all kinds of behavior. I totally agree it's coercion. These the mandates absolutely are coercion. That's the whole point, is we're trying to make people do something that we think is in our collective best interest. Things like heroin's another good example. Healthy eating, they do little things to try and like nudge people one way or the other.
At me when he said heroin. I just smoke weed, man.
Yeah.
He pointed out you to healthy eating.
You look great. You wouldn't believe how old this guy is. He looks fantastic. But
he's 17.
Anyway, my personal compromise was like I said, that I know it's a tax, but like, hey, if you have a recent I do think the community has a right to say, okay, we need everyone to either get a vaccine or get tested every 2 days. I know one of those things is expensive, But like it sucks. This is essentially a natural disaster. Like much like if there's a tornado, we need a collective or an invasion. We need a collective response.
But
the entire thing.
Yeah,
when
but not by the
natural
government of
disaster.
Alberta.
When the a
For all
natural
intents and purposes in Canada, it's a natural
When
disaster.
I
We
hear
didn't
you though
create it.
say, well, it only costs $40.
Oh, I'm not saying that's a small deal. I
No,
think
it's not.
it's
It's
a
not
bad
a
deal.
small deal, and it's a tax on the poor. And where is the left on this issue? They're the ones who can't shut up
This is
about the poor.
exactly-
And,
yeah.
and yet they're perfectly fine to say these poor unvaccinated people, they don't get to
If
participate
you want
in
to take
society.
our hard-earned
but the
tax dollars
rich
and subsidize
unvaccinated
those
people,
tests, I'm fine with that.
he
Yeah, but
he
the rich
talked
unvaccinated
earlier
people,
about
they get to be
the
fine.
homeless people, and homeless people, lots of them are like I hang out with a lot of them. Lots of them are. They're unable to get a vaccine passport. They don't have a piece of ID.
Yeah.
There is no way. And they say the mandates and the programs are to protect people.
The
And what they're
vulnerable.
doing is they're making it so these people have less options on a minus 30 day of where they cannot die.
That's why libraries never use the vaccine mandate.
Yeah.
It's because
Well,
they
like,
want them to be able
What
to
if you
Okay,
gotta
get
go
so
to
but
the
if
Washington
that- if
McDonald's, like, get out
libraries-
of here, bicycle Bob,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but if it were fine in a library, then why isn't it fine anywhere else? I mean, if we're following the science,
Some sort of science behind books I don't know.
yeah, that's the thing. So we're doing these things to make it easy for vulnerable people to go into the library so that they don't die, and we are conceding that there. Then why can't we concede it
Because
everywhere else?
very few people think down on those less fortunate than them, and like
Yeah.
how hard it has been hard on so many people. Like we've all had terrible tragedies and felt violated and everything, but my God, their whole fucking life, it's like they can't be involved. There's no possible way for them to be part of our group as society. They have to be on the outside.
Yeah.
For during this too.
Yeah.
Oh, they could get 7 vaccines and they still can't go and see
I know
anywhere.
a homeless person who has because people paid them to get the vaccine to get the
I've
to
seen
get them
that.
the
Yeah.
QR code.
Yeah.
But no, I totally agree.
That's kind of fucked up.
That's
Yeah.
That's super
Hey,
fucked
he found a way
up.
to make
Good.
money, and he's willing to roll the dice that many times.
Yeah,
you
but
want to eat this
that's-
week? Here's $100 if you get back.
Dude,
Yeah.
No, I-
that's a fucked up way to,
Yeah.
Yeah, she said that by number 7 it was starting to feel pretty bad.
Yeah, oh, really?
7?
Yeah.
Damn, dude.
I don't
7
know
shots?
if you want to
Wow, I can't
suggest that this
drive
person is
after
maybe
7
not
shots.
believable. I don't know.
Is it
But
at least
I-
all the same kind of?
Different arms.
You know what? I'll be honest. I don't
just
know.
get, like, a
That's
chemical
good-
cocktail.
That's a good question.
That's the guy we should be watching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen here?
Behind you, radioactive man.
Yeah, dude, that guy's gonna scale buildings.
Oh, that's nuts.
This is his origin story.
Yeah.
This is how every great villain was created.
No, I totally agree. We should absolutely be more compassionate and think more about
But here's the thing: they don't have an ID.
powerless people.
You know what they also don't get to do? Vote.
Yeah.
So
No,
the
totally.
people making the rules
we
don't care
should
about
all
'em.
care. We should all be more suspicious of powerful people, which includes the government and corporate interests and anybody who's leading a large mob. We should all be more suspicious of power, and we should think more about powerless people. And we should also be more nuanced. Going back to your statement about if it's okay in the library, why isn't it okay everywhere? That looks like a job for nuance to me. There's some places where you have to relax them, some places where you got to be strict. I don't know that we can have like an all or nothing
Because
policy.
if you're homeless and you have to check in with a parole officer, or you've got to get across town or something, and you get on your bus or train and get there, and now you've got to spend 2 hours getting back across town because there's one warm structure you're allowed to be in,
Yeah.
like
No,
that's ridiculous.
That's a totally fair point.
And that was
Yeah.
one of the major criticisms of the vax tax in Quebec when they were going to
Oh, that
impose
was
a
messed
vaccine
up.
tax on the unvaccinated.
Yeah.
Well, it made it so that rich unvaccinated people could just go about living their lives. And the poor unvaccinated people, they had to decide whether I get to hold my moral convictions or eat today. And that's an untenable position that
Hold
nobody
on.
should be put in by their government.
Great.
That's hold
Now
my
I
moral
agree with
positions or
Rebel
eat.
News on
It's
that.
a
Or eat.
wonderful. It's a
Yeah.
or eat. It's a wonderful T-shirt.
Yeah.
And if you guys want T-shirts, check out DangerCatShop69.com.
Man, you're fired from ad reads. DangerCatShop.com.
Patreon DangerCat69. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Wow.
Yeah, I totally agree on that. That's yet another terrible government
Fired.
overreach law in Quebec.
Yeah.
Well, Quebec's the worst.
It's
Quebec's the worst.
You just
I
said
said
Ontario's the
Ontario,
worst.
No,
Oh,
Quebec
we
is
were
the
just
worst.
I
watching
noticed
that.
that. I was going to say,
You know
what
the
about
people.
Quebec?
I
But I
think
let
the
it
people
fly.
in Ontario are the worst. The government of Quebec is the worst.
I do like the people in Quebec.
Beautiful
I don't
churches.
like the people
Yeah.
in Ontario. And I'm not obviously saying all of them. But
with your guys' like media organization, is there the kind of corporate interest, or is this all like subscription based websites, or is this, and do you guys kind of have to, when you're writing on certain things, do you have to scale back on what you really truly would say because of corporate interests or because of your crowd funding or basically because of the income?
How far right would you like to be?
Well,
I'm as far right as I think that
Yeah.
I'm comfortable being. Like, and the thing about the journalists that we have is we're all kind of different. We're all sort of different sorts of conservatives.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in charge of them all, but I don't really tell you like what you should care about or what you
or how to think.
and
or-
it's we have a different. I think I've heard because I've never really been a journalist anywhere else, but when stories get pitched to me, they come from the journalist to me and not the other way around. I don't assign stories.
Oh, okay.
They pitch me story ideas because I think you guys have stuff that interests you, and I think you guys are all a bunch of normal conservatives with different issues that matter to you. So obviously you would be speaking to a demographic of the Canadian population who cares about the same things as you. So I don't really tell you what to say. There are things that we have to sort of not say so that we can stay on YouTube.
yeah, you got to say Patreon
Yeah.
with an AR.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. but I don't really tell them what to say. And we don't have any large corporate interests. We are completely demonetized on YouTube anyway. We can't get ad dollars that way. And I think our largest, like our average crowdfunded donation is under $100 a person.
Okay.
So we are beholden to no one. So it's a hard hustle to make a living that way
Mm-hmm.
because you're always you're always working for the next story, and the next story is how you pay the bills. But I think it's the best form of independence because,
Yeah.
you know, we're, like I said, beholden to no one, but also because we're always uniquely sort of in touch with our viewer base. We know when we get something wrong right away. We hear it right away.
Have
Yeah.
you ever heard anyone like really zing you online where you're like, oh, shoot, that's a good point. I'm mistaken, or at least I took a wrong step there?
I don't know. It's been a long time, and I'm pretty good online.
Well, my question, you said like when we get something wrong, like when you get, I've noticed there has been so many things on media that have been misreported.
Yeah.
And I don't see a lot of apologies. What do you guys do when you get something wrong? Like,
So
what
if
is
we-
the step
so
you guys
if we
take?
get a fact wrong, and we're pretty, because again, I oversee editorial, pretty careful because I'm attached to all of it. And we've had, before I started doing the job that I do, some editorial missteps. And so I never want that to happen again. We call it the troubles. And I don't ever want that to happen again. It was just a very trying time for everybody. And there's, you know, we got through it, but I just never want to go back there again. And if we do get something wrong, if the facts develop and change, we put that at the top of the story, not at the bottom, like a little addendum
Yeah.
that you'll see on like CNN that totally changes the, like basically
Yeah.
says, everything you just read, everything you took like
Yeah.
10 minutes reading, it's all wrong.
Well, and if
this
your eyes,
is what it is.
yeah, if your eyes have any of the troubles, you'll need your spectacles in order to see
yeah,
it.
so we put that at the top. We'll say, you know, correction or editor's note or whatever when more information comes out. We do that at the top, not at the bottom, because we want to be transparent about that. And we don't, if we've changed a story after we've published it, we always do that. We just don't let people do the investigative work by going on the Wayback Machine. We want to be upfront that, you know, more things happened and this is how the story is shaking out now.
We're paid by the people to be honest.
Yeah.
Right? And
Yeah.
the mainstream media is paid by the government to do the opposite. So it's just like that way there, you know, like they trust us to be honest, and that's why they pay us.
Well, I
give
also
them.
think it's healthy too, like to have both viewpoints. You
Yeah.
know,
Multiple. There's not
yeah.
even always two sides. Sometimes
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
seven.
Yeah.
And you got multiple journalists on your team that are going to have different viewpoints, and to have the freedom to express it. That's
Yeah.
like with this. That's why I like the live stream, because we bring guys like comics. We've had prostitutes on here.
Next
We-
week,
In this chair?
yeah. No, that chair.
one
His
of
chair. Next week, actually, we've got.
Some of us are both at the same time. Check
Yeah.
out my Patreon.
Yeah.
Your OnlyFans.
But to have different walks of life to
Yeah.
come in here, tell your story, whatever it is, because the chain of command stops here at me, and
Yeah.
and I'm pretty loose with like bringing as many different viewpoints and having people have these conversations, because I think it opens more doors to see that, you know, maybe me and Steve, even though we're both comedians, have different viewpoints, can sit here and have a conversation without being like, fuck you, and
Yeah.
you're gay or something like that, whatever
a
it is.
little.
Yeah, but we don't resort to name calling at the end of it, that we can have a conversation about shit that we disagree on or we agree on. We can
Yeah.
find common ground, and we can do it in a fun, playful way as well as making fun of one another and shooting the shit. And I think that's important right now.
I really think your most important political opinion is how you treat other people.
Yeah.
Going back to multiple viewpoints, who do you think is the smartest person you disagree with? Like, that's a famous
Whoa.
person.
Ooh, that's a
Not-
good question.
Not like your uncle.
Whoa.
You go first.
Sounds like
I got to think of that.
an icebreaker game you play at one of those murder parties or
Yeah.
something.
Ezra. He's like, whoa, no, I didn't
We
say that.
disagree on nothing.
Jeez. No,
That's a really
strange.
good question.
Oh, thank you. I'll answer if you want. There's a right wing economist that I really like. It's called Econ Talk. Russell. I'm drawing a blank on his last name now, but Econ Talk is an excellent podcast, and it's from a very, very right wing libertarian economist. It's great. It's a great listen. Same thing as what Brendan was saying. You get anybody on there, talk about anything.
Yeah, that's like,
Russ Roberts.
I
Yeah.
don't mind Timcast. Like I'll go
Yeah, I
on.
like Tim Pool.
Yeah, I don't mind. I don't hate it and I don't love it, but if I need something to watch and consume, if like there's a lot of things that, like, he can kind of get a little like about, and it gets real like kind of Fox Newsy on there, and he's not even a right wing guy, you know, and I don't know. I appreciate his viewpoints in bringing on who's the hippie crystal guy on there.
I don't watch him enough to know.
Long-haired guy.
Russell Brand.
No. This guy's like reoccurring on the show all the time. I can't remember his name.
Yeah,
is.
that's a good example. He's like
That's
a
a good-
communist, and
He
he's
is
kind
a
of
communist, but he's like
Yeah.
very like, I'm just gonna leave everybody alone. And so if you had to ask me, like, who's somebody that I disagree with, but I'm open to hearing him whenever he does something, that's the guy.
That's a good answer. I like
Oh,
Russell
okay.
Brand.
I'm
Yeah, he's-
always open to hearing from people I disagree with. Like that's basically how I evolve as a thinker.
Yeah.
Is by people challenging my beliefs.
I enjoy talking to people that I disagree with more than I do with who agrees with
Yeah.
me.
Otherwise, it would just I'll be sitting here going like, we like trucks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I
And
mean.
I like surprising people who think that I'm something that I'm not.
Well, the way that like you are portrayed in the media
Oh,
is
it's crazy.
very different than the way that you were portrayed on your own social media, and it was very interesting to get to meet you and see like who you are.
Yeah.
Ian. Sorry, the guy's name is Ian. The chat just saved me on this.
Thanks,
Perfect.
Chat.
Thanks, chatters.
Yeah.
Yeah, I try to be. I know that there is a certain perception on the left about who I am. I think they think I'm kind of caustic and mean, and
Well, I think they think a house fell on your sister and her legs rolled up, and there's like a tin, the Wicked Witch of the West. That's what they paint you as.
Next time you come on, you're gonna have to have a bunch of preloaded, really mean things to say
Yeah.
about the other people.
Yeah.
but
She's gonna
you
be
know what I
joke
mean?
writing in the parking lot.
But you know, like when I meet people, I think they're sort of kind of shocked that I'm not that like horrible creature that the left has of this avatar of me.
Yeah.
I think I'm just normal. I'm just a mom doing journalism in charge of a bunch of kids.
I think that's one of the advantages to meeting people in person. Like online, if you're just looking at a screen, it's really easy to forget that there's a person who might really mean what they're not just trying to be mean to you. This is what they actually think.
Yeah.
And they're being very genuine. This is what they think will make the world, including your world, a better place. Whereas when you're in the same room, you're like, well, it's a human being.
Yeah.
Maybe one of us is wrong. No big deal. We're all trying. But when it's like behind a screen, they're like, they're the devil.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know. I live with a weird scientific method where I'm excited for people to prove me wrong about something. Like I'll make a statement and like it'll be about something I don't know, maybe, and I'm like, yeah, prove me wrong. Let's do it. This is great. I can learn about it. So it's always interesting to see how other people's ideas about people are molded too.
That goes back to the
Yeah.
tribalism thing. And
Yeah.
I think it's especially bad right now, but I do think this is just an essential feature of humans, so you can only complain about it so much. That we all want to pick a team, and then we want to see that team win.
Yeah.
Like, why does some people cheer for the Oilers and some people cheer for the Flames? Neither of those teams have anything to do with you, but you want to see your team win.
Yeah.
And I think politics easily gets to be the same way pretty quickly. Unless you actively try to not let it do that.
A label is
Like
an
Nick.
excuse. A label is an excuse not to think. So people that are like, I'm a liberal, I'm a conservative. It's like, now I don't have to think about the issues.
Just hand me
this
my
is so
opinions,
much easier.
and I can
and now I
repeat them when
think of
asked.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have an answer? You're the
I'm still thinking of a person.
Okay.
As-
That's a good.
Does this ever get like in the way of your personal life? Like, have you ever had like an interaction in public off camera where you're not even reporting that has kind of affected you? Like maybe you're in the grocery store or, you know, walking the dog or something like that, and you've been kind of berated
for being a rebel?
Yeah.
Not me.
Not me.
I'm
No?
behind
But
the
I don't-
camera, right? So no
yeah,
one knows
like-
my face yet.
Oh, fair enough.
I was
Until-
going to say,
until now.
no offense,
Yeah.
man. Only one of you is famous.
I'm not even though.
Boom.
That's rude.
Hey, you look like you might have been holding a camera last week. It was from exactly that perspective.
But I think I'm kind of lucky because I just sort of look like a normal person. Like, I'm not like the big buxom Fox News anchor. I'm just like a regular mom-looking lady. And I don't go to places where I might encounter someone who hates my guts. I frequent the farm supply store. I like PV Mart. I like Cabela's. I go to Costco. So I'll get recognized at Costco sometimes, but I've never been berated in real life. One time I was getting my skates sharpened at Canadian Tire, and the guy was like looking at me. He's like, I'm sure I know you from somewhere. I'm like, no, you definitely don't. It's the first time I've been here. You don't know me. And he's like, Sheila. I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, because I was in Edmonton, so I'm already like braced for like,
you're ready.
This is a socialist hellhole. They're gonna be mad at me.
Nobody's coming up to you screaming in Cabela's.
Yeah. Get recognized at the
Shaking
gun
your hand.
counter. At the gun counter, but no, he actually was a fan. He's like, yeah, I like your work. I'm like, oh, that's great. But you're always sort of on the ready for someone to yell at you. And I don't think we should be, because I feel like we're the mainstream. We're bigger than anybody else, really.
More views and more, yeah, it's exactly that.
Have you found like during the course of all this that viewership has went up?
Yeah.
Through the whole virus pandemic and what's currently happening too with the convoy, do you find that more people are turning to you for their information?
Yeah, definitely. I would say, and sorry to cut you off. We've pivoted the kind of company that we are during the pandemic. We used to do conservative news, and now we do conservative news, but we also try to be problem solvers. So when people get tickets, we show up and we say, got a ticket? We'll tell your story of the ticket, which can feel kind of exploitative.
Very Absalom-y for you fellow Christian school kids. You remember Absalom? You don't remember Absalom.
Sounds like a
go
meat.
on.
Anyway.
Just showing off my Bible knowledge. Please go on.
But, like, when you measure something, you can change it. So when you tell the story of the guy who got a ticket for just having a birthday party, that's important. But I felt, and I think we all felt, that there was something more that we could do. So then we started connecting people with lawyers. And through that, Fight the Fines grew. And then a whole charity spun off called the Democracy Fund, which is fighting vaccine passport lawsuits. And now it's helping truckers in Ottawa. We have a special lawyer helping the truckers in Coutts. But Chad. But we've really changed sort of the kind of company that we are. And it wasn't just about being conservative anymore. It was, sort of standing up for the forgotten people during the pandemic, the people who were being tromped on.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't have as good as an answer as that, but when you looked at me and asked the question, it was like, yeah, I checked my analytics of Twitter, and from the week I was in Coutts, I had 20 million people, like 20 million impressions on my personal page, so I can only imagine for Rebel, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, who's not famous now,
Yeah.
Mr. Darnell?
Oh,
Yeah, man.
What's your Twitter got, dude? Pull up your
My
analytics.
Twitter is not the issue here. I've been yelled at in Cabela's plenty of times.
It's because they don't sharpen your skates there.
Yeah.
But this is the part of the show we got to kind of plug. You've got a Twitter. Where can people find you, Steve?
My Twitter is @SteveZSkidoo. All I do is complain about hockey.
Yeah, but no, it's very comedic.
Yeah, me and Nick talk to each other sometimes. Yeah, I also have, if you are in Edmonton, Super Bowl Sunday, I'm having a show that has nothing to do with the Super Bowl. So if you don't like football, come on down to the comic strip, 7 o'clock, February 13th. We've got a debate about conspiracy theories. I'm moderating it.
What?
It's between Alicia, what's her new stage name? Sorry? Alicia Elizabeth?
Alicia Elizabeth.
Do you want to go?
I want to go, but I love.
I know a guy who I know a guy I
really
could probably
good.
hook you up with some tickets.
And Brad Semituk is the other. I'm sorry, Alicia. She just changed her name. But she's really good. It's going to be great.
Is she a criminal or did she get married?
She's
Those are the two
Swiss
reasons
government.
women change their name.
she's a respectable person and is worried about being seen with other comedians. But yeah, she's great. It's going to be a great show.
Nice. And
Things to plug.
the people can
Oh.
find you. Where's your
Go
stuff?
ahead,
If you
K2.
want to follow me personally, it's Kian Simone 44 on Twitter. That's where I do all my Rebel stuff. And if you want to see more of my work, just convoyreports.com.
Okay.
Convoyreports.com.
Okay.
Convoyreports.com. And you have got a podcast, a book, like
Yeah,
just go.
I've got some books. They're available on Amazon. Suzuki book. I wrote a book to ruin Suzuki's big day when he got his honorary degree from the U of A. I was like, no, I'm having none of that. So we rushed a book out the door. I've got The Destroyers, which is about Rachel Notley's when she came into office. I've got Stop Notley. That was sort of a summation of her behavior while she was in office. You can find me at rebelnews.com. I have a weekly show called The Gunn Show. It's also available as a podcast.
Awesome
That's a
name.
I know.
good
They're
name.
like,
It's
what are we going to
awesome
call
name.
your show? I'm like, is that a real question, you guys? And at Sheila Gunn Reid is my Twitter.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
Hell yeah. And all of their Instagrams are in the description down below if you want to follow them. So you can give them a follow. Nick and I have a show coming up on the 24th. Cream of the crop, baby. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to find Edmonton's best comic, all right? 30-plus comedians will take the stage and do 1 minute of comedy, 1v1, until we find the cream, or the King Cobb. We're going to label him.
King Cobb.
Yeah, so that is February 24th here in Edmonton.
At the station.
Yes, sir.
So it's
doors
like-
open at 7
It's like
p.m.
a King of the Hill, 1 versus 1. They
Yeah.
each get to do a minute, and the loser leaves, the winner stays. And
Yes,
it's
sir.
like a Royal Rumble of
It's the
comedy.
It is
Yeah.
the Royal Rumble of comedy.
And tickets are available at dangercatshop.com. Don't put 69 in there.
Do not put 69.
Don't do it.
And another Danger Room is coming back to the Comedy Cave February 20th. Yeah, February 20th. Also, tickets available at dangercatshop.com. It's a safe space for dangerous ideas.
Are we allowed to talk about White Court?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, it's so funny. I did the
5th.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the 5th of next month.
March 5th in White Court. Tickets available at dangercatshop.com. We're coming out there. And I believe we're going to be adding a second show to that because this
So-
one is sold. I think
Well,
the
it's
one
because
is almost sold out.
it's not a comedy show. It's a rally.
Well, that's initially what the guy thought. Yeah. So I did the vaccine video or whatever.
Yeah.
And this bar owner in White Court thought that I was doing rallies. So he called and he was like, "Why don't you come out here and do a rally?" And I was like, "I don't really do rallies. It's
Yeah.
I'm too pale to be labeling this a rally. It doesn't."
And you can't have a 2-drink minimum in a rally.
Yeah, dude.
But this guy, during the pandemic, he didn't do.
Yeah,
he
remained
said,
open the whole time.
He said no
Yeah.
every time the government, and how much money with fines did he get?
24,000, I believe.
Jiminy Christmas.
Yeah.
So
Can
they
Can you
just
give me his
cut-
number? I feel like he needs a little help.
Crown and Anchor Pub in White Court, Alberta, I believe
Yeah,
is where it's
if
at.
You've got help.
It's
to
Crown
send
and
it.
Tower or Crown and Acre. I can't remember which
I
one.
mean, you
but-
could
I'll
if you
find
were to go to dangercatshop.com and buy
I'll
a ticket,
find
it'll
it.
have the information.
I'll buy a ticket. I'll come talk to him.
Yeah, but yeah, he remained open the whole time and refused to do any of that shit. So I just learned about this right as we were booking a show because he reached out and then I put him in contact with our booking agent.
Oh,
and
he needs help. We can help.
Yeah, for sure.
there we
Yeah.
go.
Are you taking?
The bear.
I don't know what I just did by bringing up this White Court
Oh
thing.
yeah,
That guy's got 24 grand in tickets. He needs a good lawyer.
yeah. Yeah, he stuck to his guns and he remained open this whole time and said fuck it.
Good
And
for
he's also in the, in the heartbeat of the oil patch pretty much right now.
Yeah.
So I'd imagine that, it was probably A-okay out there. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just making assumptions here.
Yep.
But I don't know, power to him. I like it. I
Yeah.
like it when people say fuck you.
Oh,
It's-
you're a big fan of Rebels.
Yeah, I definitely am. Listen, we didn't start this shit because actually I was drunk half the time, but
We didn't start this shit sober.
yeah, I was hammered. This is a hammered idea, and now it's spun off into what it is today, so I can't
Jeez.
I can't complain. I
Yeah.
can't complain. I'm doing stand-up comedy now. I'm a
Well, I love you
comedian.
guys.
Yeah.
I came to the January 1st show.
Oh, did you?
In Calgary there.
Oh, were you there?
Yeah, you know what?
Sweet.
That was honestly the last thing I needed with the hangover, but
Yeah?
it was awesome.
Did you have a good time?
Yeah, it was amazing. my social justice, ex-social justice warrior girlfriend was there too, and she loved it.
Really?
Nice.
Yeah,
That's hilarious because
Yeah.
we don't hold any.
No.
There's every line gets crossed in
It was
there.
Yeah,
awesome.
you get demonetized
Oh,
quick
dude,
off of that, eh?
that is the room that we would be canceled for.
That
for sure.
comedy show on Monday, I had a room full of university students laughing at words that I'm not allowed to say, and I'm very happy that it was recorded so that I can no longer work again. Getting canceled again this year, nice and early.
Hey, you know what, man? At the end of the day, it almost helps comedians' careers if you think about it.
I guess.
I would say
Yeah.
all the free press that you get out of that.
It really depends on who your audience is.
That
if
is
you're
true.
Gonna,
Like
if-
Patton Oswalt, I guess.
Yeah,
he was-
exactly. If
yeah.
it came out with him, like his audience would probably hate that. And stop
Yeah,
going,
but if
like,
you pander to that shit, I mean, look at the guys like Legion of Skanks and Big J Ogerson and all them, and they now have probably one of the best comedy festivals you could possibly ever go to. Skank
now.
Fest, yeah,
For now, we'll see.
Would you pay money to listen to the 100 censored episodes belonging to Joe Rogan?
No.
Well,
I-
people would.
Oh, would
Yeah.
I pay? Oh, sorry, the 100. I thought you meant
like
yes.
the
I
episodes
would.
that were taken down?
100%. I
Yeah,
would. Yeah,
exactly.
I would support that.
$10, Joe Rogan, and that's my final offer.
Yeah. So if he took those and put them somewhere behind a paywall, he would be making money hand over fist.
sell
And
them
I think
as
that's the point.
NFTs.
You cancel, yeah, you cancel them. You cancel him. You cancel those episodes, and people like me, I'll just listen because somebody told me not to.
Yeah. Oh, it's like when mom didn't want you to watch wrestling because it was bad, and then you just
Oh.
loved wrestling
Yeah.
even more.
No,
Or
that's
my brother's dropping me on the coffee table.
Yeah.
Power
That kind
bomb.
of that started the push of like what's bad, and like that was another thing with skateboarding. That's what like influenced like you'd see no skateboarding signs and be like, oh, I guess nobody likes skateboarding, so I like it now. And
Yeah.
and my buddies, older brothers, and they were kind of rebellious and badasses, doing burnouts in parking lots and partying, doing all this cool shit. So you get influenced by those people, and then the music gets passed down. And you get your hands on your first NWA CD at 13, and you're
Yeah.
like, dude,
Yeah.
maybe the police do suck.
Yeah.
I don't like them at all.
that actually, it amazes me how many people don't get that. Genuinely, I think it's neat how some people don't feel the need to do what they're told not to do. And like, it's not even something that I'm bragging about. I've done a bunch of stupid things just because someone told me not to do.
100%, man.
And some people don't feel that need, and that's neat. Good for you.
The reason I
Might be
really
better.
fucking powered forward with this is because my mom told me I should quit. I should stop. You're gonna lose your job. And
Can I do a celebrity boxing match?
Absolutely. But it wasn't until I could like prove like I'm making a living doing
Yeah.
it. Then she was like, "Oh, okay." But for a good portion of the first year and a half. Sorry, what's that?
No. Keep
Oh,
going.
the first year and a half, I just dealt with like family members, friends, and being like, I don't know, man, I don't
man.
know. And then all of a sudden, the I guess fame and you're seeing our logo places and shit like that. It then started to click in their head and be like, but if I didn't have that stubbornness and I listened to them and quit, I would probably fucking have killed myself by now, dude.
That's, I think, our company ethos is like, you don't want us there? That's how you get all of us. Not just more of us,
Yeah.
but literally all of us.
My mom, when I started comedy, she goes, "When'd you get funny?"
Yeah.
And then I won a contest and told her, and she goes, "I was rigged." And I'm like, "Oh, you bitch!
Yeah,
You'll
dude.
never be good enough."
When I first joined Rebel, it was the same thing with my family. Like, not my immediate family, but the outer family.
Mhm.
They're like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah, your
Like, you're
dad's a
running
true
around with-
believer.
Yeah, my dad.
A
They're
Trudeau
like,
believer?
You're running
No,
around with the
true.
camera. Like, what are you doing? And it wasn't until the Coutts story that, like, well, frankly, it blew me up too. That
Yeah, you're famous now.
they,
Yeah.
like, I have
Sorry I
like,
said anything.
I have aunts and uncles that like never reached out, just like messaging me on Facebook, like, "Hey, hope everything's good." Or cousins now. I had a cousin just never reached out, and then now all of a sudden it's like, "Oh, good job, man." Well, I've been
That's sick,
doing
dude.
this.
Yeah, man. What made you want to go with Rebel?
It was actually a previous worker that worked at Rebel. His name was also Kian.
Mm-hmm.
My dad showed me
Bexton?
Bexy.
Bexy?
My dad
K1.
showed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. That's
that's
very
where
good.
it comes
Now
Gotcha.
we're getting.
My dad showed me a video, and I've always had this overreach thought in my head, just like, oh, ever since when I was 13, my dad was putting headphones on when I was sleeping of 9/11 documentaries. Right? Like, I'm not joking.
Listen.
Yes.
I'm literally not
Alex
joking.
Jones.
Whoa, you were made.
Yeah, my dad
That's the
programmed.
most
Third building.
unbelievable thing I've ever heard in my life.
Wow,
dad
that's like
programmed me.
that's nature and nurture
Yeah.
working for you there.
I was supposed to go to sleep one night. My mom's like going to work. She worked at a bar like at night, and my dad's like waiting for her to leave so he can come up to my room. And I'm about to go to bed for elementary school, like grade 3 in the morning. And he's like, "Yeah, watch this video quick."
Yeah,
And
shows
it's
you Alex
9/11, I'm
Jones.
just- yeah.
And you're
breaking into
learning-
the Bilderberger group.
You're learning in elementary school that 9 plus 11 doesn't add up, eh?
All right, son, we're going to break down the military-industrial complex
See,
here.
this guy's a lizard.
I'm always worried about like conspiracy theories because like I don't look Jewish, but people will always go into it and like cross the line
Yeah.
into anti-Semitism all the time, and I'm like, oh my god. So I've always been like really kind of pulled back from that world because so much of it is just anti-Semitism when it boils down
It's
to it.
appalling.
Well, when you
but-
control
yeah.
the weather, I mean...
I mean, yeah, but hey, stop fucking complaining. It's
Yeah.
beautiful
There's
out
a
now.
weight
No,
that
it's
comes
not.
with that power.
It is horrible out there.
Yeah, it's got to be like
It's +7. This is the best I can do. Okay, I'm Ashkenazi.
you're doing a fine job.
Thank
a
you.
fine
Thank you. I'm
job.
trying. I'm trying.
Mazel tov.
But it was from that. It was from just looking at the government doing things. And I worked in the music industry in Toronto. Like,
Oh,
I used
okay.
to do concerts for like, the weekend.
How
Yeah.
are you so
Yeah.
young and you've done so much?
I don't know, man.
Good.
You
I-
started early.
I
His
went-
dad
I
is
had
one
a
of the
lot-
reptilians.
I suffered with like a lot of depression and stuff, like young, right?
Yeah,
so
not a
that
lot of
pushed
people
me
enjoy
out.
it.
That pushed me out of it, and so I want to do something.
Nice.
And it was, I don't know, it's as simple as that. But then I saw Rebel, and the guy had the same name as me, so I was like, well, I'm gonna watch this for sure. And then realized that 2 of my buddies from school, like the same classroom, worked at Rebel. It's Mocha and Lincoln.
Okay.
And I was like teaching Lincoln how to do things in class. So I hit him up, and I was like, hey man, you give me a job. And that's pretty much how it worked.
Oh,
Is it
tight.
nice?
Yeah.
Does there strike you guys as odd that like now like you're rebelling, you're kind of rebelling against, at least culturally, the progressive thing is the more mainstream thing that's what you're rebelling against. But like when we were growing up, like it was the George Bush and the religious right, and like I hear a lot of conservatives talking about it now, like, oh, Rage Against the Machine, they were leftists, but now right people love them. Like, but does it strike you as weird that there was that switch? That like I don't know. I guess we're some of us are just kind of rebelling against whoever's in power.
I'm
And
an
then
old
if you
school
got
liberal,
in
like
power,
I said.
yeah.
It's the same thing, just freedom for all.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who's in charge. If you're reaching into my pocket or trying to shove something into my arm,
Yeah. And
F off.
it's funny though that you bring that up. Excuse me. Because there is sort of this thing now where if you're like a overtly Christian conservative woman, you are the counterculture now, as opposed to the cultural enforcer that the left would have assumed you to be 20 years ago. I don't know when that shift happened, but that's where we're at.
Well,
I don't
here
know if there is as
bell-bottoms.
much of a mainstream. I think like the what with the internet, everyone can just kind of have their own style. The whole idea of like a mainstream culture, I think, might be going away.
I think so too.
That
Yeah.
there's-
Yeah, and you're even seeing it with like celebrities and
Yeah.
and all that, because now it
There's no
seems
movie
like
stars.
like
Here's-
13-year-olds are more intrigued with YouTubers. And where we
Yeah.
were growing up, it was like,
Yeah.
oh, all of us were like in awe of like a Stone Cold Steve Austin,
Yeah.
Oh,
or
yeah.
you were like you had like this
Bruce
fast
the Beefcake Barber.
Yeah. Like there was just, it was kind of there. It was like hockey players. It was on the television. You were
Yep.
told that these guys are cool. You thought they were cool, and you just went with it. Where now you have a freedom of more choice.
Well,
I think.
And
When-
different ways to consume the culture.
Yeah.
When
I
we
think is
grew
what
up, you just had
fostering that.
click, click, click on the TV,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
that's it. And now you can watch the same news story being covered by two different mainstream things, and it's a completely
Yep.
different story.
Yeah.
And then you go and watch people that they become this weird separation, and there's no mainstream culture. There's two substream cultures, and they're branching off, and they will have conversations and hate each other and be talking about something, and both of them be so drastically misinformed on the right and the left, and they're just screaming at each other, and then somebody's like, "Oh, you got to put your mask on to scream in here, sir," and you're like, "Ah, it's my Walmart. Let me be free."
Amen.
What are we talking about? Sorry, the other guy took over for a second there.
Yeah. Well, we've done 2.5 hours now.
Whew.
Yeah, that's usually we only do 2 hours, but the conversation was going well. But I think that's a good note to wrap
Yeah.
her up on.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming down. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir,
and
we really-
thanks
Yeah,
for being a
that's
part of this.
That was
And
awesome.
yeah,
You guys sign
thanks
our-
again, Steven.
Sign our
Yeah.
jerseys.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Oh yeah. Before we end it.
Fuck, I reminded.
Yeah. Thank you. I gotta get like a paper or something like that so we can remember.
You got rolling paper.
But this jersey right here
That's
that
why
we
he
have,
forgets.
this Danger Cats jersey that Nick has kindly got made for all of us, or not all of us.
Just for you, really.
Yeah, pretty much. But at the end of this year, we're going to auction this off, and every guest on the show is going to sign it, and then all of the highest bidder, and the money's going to go to like a Kids Help Sports or
Nice.
something like that. So that's what the jersey is here for. But yes, what we're asking was, will you sign our jerseys?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Well, thank you again for tuning in to another episode of Last Call Live. Sorry, we didn't have the phone lines open today. We were trying to figure out a different method so that way we're not getting the call waiting, right? Yeah. But anyways, yes, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week every Wednesday at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. We stream